Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Halas Hall Hangover. And tonight, on this Memorial Day edition, we give thanks and remembrance to our fallen soldiers and give thanks for everything they've done for us. And inside the show, it's quiet around the league, but not here on the Halas Hall Hangover. Are the Bears front office finally aligned from front office to field. Plus, there's a new defensive free agent that is arisen from the ashes. And we take a look at Caleb's top second-year matchups. We have our takes, but we want yours next on the Halas Hall Hangover. Hello again, everybody, and welcome inside 4-Star Chicago Sports. This is the Halas Hall Hangover, and I got Kyle with me, and I will think Brandon will be with us shortly, and I think Dustin will maybe be back on Thursday, if not pop in sometime a little bit later on in the show. So, Chicago, on this Memorial Day, as I said earlier, we are having a moment of silence and reflecting on those that have lost their lives, and give thanks on this day and keep their legacy alive by honoring them on Memorial Day. And I hope everybody out there had a meaningful Memorial Day with their family members in remembrance of what today actually stands for, because we are forever grateful. On that note, Kyle, how are you doing this afternoon, or this evening, I should say, sir? You have no audio, Kyle. Can't hear you. What's up? We got breaking news. Bruce in the house. Well, Kyle fixes that situation. We are going to move on. A slow start to the show. A little technical difficulties on this Memorial Day, but no big deal as we go around the league. Here, no big news around the NFL to start the day.
Sean, can you hear me?
Oh, Kyle's back on. As I was saying, it is very quiet around the NFL right now. Not a lot of news breaking anywhere. A couple of little new nuggets and tidbits that we'll touch on here. Not major stories, but obviously something for us to talk about. But now that we got Kyle's mic up, how you doing this evening, sir?
I'm all right, man. My shoulder's still killing me, but besides that, I can't complain, especially on a day like this, Sean. Not much to complain about, considering we're all still here and healthy, right?
That's right. So I thought Brandon was going to be with us. I don't know if he's running late today. He said he'll be there. He just texted out. So he's running a little bit late, but we're going to dive right into this. We'll start with a little bit of news that came from Mo Moton from Bleacher Report. SI actually put it up, so it kind of caught my attention. And then I heard Harrison Graham talk about it as well. So I decided, hey, what the hell? Let's take a stab. Let's take a look at this guy. His name is Tano Kpassagnon. He will be a 31-year-old defensive end, as you can see, a second-round draft pick, 59th overall, 2017, to the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe. His career stats: 104 games played, 141 tackles, 16 and a half sacks, 22 for loss, 42 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles. And there is a little connection here. While Kpassagnon has a history of playing with Dennis Allen, from 21 to 24. This, I guess, Kyle, is this something that you're interested in? Could provide a quality depth plug and play piece on the end on the opposite side of Montez Sweat. He did miss last year with an Achilles. 17 games the year before that. He's never had more than 3.5 sacks in a season. So I ask you, with the relationship with Dennis Allen, is this someone maybe you like to see the Bears bring in as a late season acquisition here, or early season acquisition as we get into training camp?
I mean, Sean, I've been looking at this guy all day. I've looked at his statistics here. I mean, he did. It looks like ESPN said he had a season or a couple of seasons with 4 sacks, but basically
did.
3. Yeah, and one of them he played 8 games and had 4 sacks. So that season looked like he was on pace to actually have a really good season. But 16 and a half sacks since 2017 just leaves a lot to be desired. So, I mean, if they were going to sign this guy, I would sign him if he's still available in free agency in the middle of the season and you sustain an injury to somebody like Montez Sweat. But I certainly wouldn't sign him right now. I mean, if I'm the Chicago Bears, like I've said this numerous times now, I'm either waiting for the 53-man roster cuts to see what's out there, hoping that somebody good gets cut because some team was just had an embarrassment of riches, or I'm going to go all in and sign a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, Matthew Judon, Darius Smith, Von Miller, somebody like that, somebody can get you 5, 6, 7 sacks. I mean, I don't know much about him. It seems like he's a good all-around player, kind of similar to Montez Sweat, not necessarily like a sack specialist.
Right.
But I just don't think he changes the team in any way, shape, or form. I don't think adding this guy gives you another win on the schedule anywhere. I mean, we saw the Bears trade for a guy like Terrell Taylor in 2025, and they gave Seattle a 6th-round pick for him. And, he had a good start for the Bears, but he ultimately ended up with 3 sacks that's last season. He was nothing special. The Bears decided not to bring him back. I feel like this is another one of those guys who's kind of in the same boat. And like you said, Sean, I think next month he's going to be 31 years old. So at this point, this guy is probably on his way down, if anything.
I was going to say, here's the depth chart that the Bears have at the end after, I know a few hosts on this show like Daniel Hardy a lot, his potential. But when you get into Robinson, Korma, Xavier Carlton, and my rock chalk Jayhawk, Jameer Robinson, seems like you got some developmental players and not a lot of depth. And you still don't know what you got in Austin Booker. I was going on and reading a little bit more, and they kind of are saying if you're going to add something here, the Bears are going to add a running back or a defensive end. So I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Brandon, on Tano Kpassagnon?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Kyle. I mean, how much is going to cost you? But I don't love the idea of it. I like to see Daniel Hardy and Austin Booker get their chances, and I find it hard to believe that a guy like Daniel Hardy can't produce as much as he has throughout his career and his season.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Hardy showed flashes last year. He looks like he could produce a lot more than 3.5 sacks.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Are you taking snaps away from a guy who could potentially be even better than this guy's been throughout his career?
I mean, Bern and Sean, let me ask you guys. So you take away the big names, right? Say the Bears don't want to spend a ton of money on a guy like Darius Smith, Matthew Judon, Jadeveon Clowney, Von Miller. And let's face it, most of those guys are also probably on the tail end of their careers, right? But here's a list of available defensive end free agents. And I know Shaquille Barrett's gone back and forth on whether or not he wants to retire, but here's the next top best guys. Shaquille Barrett, Dennis Gardick, Preston Smith, DeMarcus Walker, Jihad Ward, Carl Lawson, Yannick Ngakoue, and Dwayne Smoot. I mean, I think I'd rather have any single one of the guys I just mentioned over this guy from New Orleans. And that's no disrespect, man. I don't know enough about this guy to say that he's not a good player, but I mean, it sounds like they're bringing this guy in to be kind of a backup defensive end and a sack specialist. This guy's never had more than 3.5 sacks, and he's had more than a few seasons where he's played 17 games. So what exactly was he doing?
Yeah, my guy on this list has been and will be until he's signed is Darius Smith. You want to bring in someone. I don't know what that's going to cost you either, but he played 8 games for Detroit. I think he had 4.5 sacks in those 8 games. He still looks like he has a little juice in the tank, a guy who could be a rotational specialist for you, opposite side of Montez Sweat, or have him and Sweat on the field at the same time. Because, as I said, if you watched him during Detroit finish the season with Detroit, he had a lot of gas left in that tank. He's my favorite guy of all these. My second would probably be Matthew Judon if they were looking at somebody. Last year, obviously, was a career low. He had career lows across the board. But outside of that, he's been a pretty high-level football player. Again, I don't know the cost of what either of these guys are looking for on the open market. But I know, Kyle, you had touched on, you said you would want to wait to see what free agents become available as cuts happen. Well.
And like you said, Sean, if you're willing to spend a big chunk of what you have left and your salary cap on one of these guys, I mean, it's like you said, Darius Smith is still a very good football player. This guy in 2022 had 10 sacks, 2023 5.5. And then 2024, I think it was between the Browns and Lions. I think he played for two separate teams, but he had 9 sacks last season. Matthew Judon in 2021 had 12.5. 2022 had 15.5. 2023, he had 4 sacks in 4 games. Unfortunately, he got hurt that season, but he was averaging a sack a game. And then last year, he definitely had his worst season in a long time. But that whole Atlanta Falcons defense was really bad.
Pitiful.
And he still scraped up 55.5 sacks last year. So it's not like he was used.
Tackles.
What's that?
You said, did you say 5.5?
Yeah, he had 5.5 sacks last.
I thought you said 55.5. I'm sorry.
No, and he had 5.5.
Decent season. It was all right.
Yeah, I mean, and
that Atlanta team.
And listen, that's better than. I mean, I understand that Matthew.
Get him now.
That's Matthew Judon's worst season, but that's better than the guy that they're talking about adding from New Orleans. And then you look at Jadeveon Clowney, 2021, 9 sacks. 2022, he had a bad season, 2 sacks. 2023, another 9.5 sacks. Then last year, he had 5.5. And people always keep saying, like, well, I don't think Jadeveon Clowney will sign a 1-year contract. Well, that's not true because he signed a 1-year contract with Seattle, Tennessee, and Baltimore before he went to Carolina. And then Von Miller, I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries as of late, and he's certainly not the player he used to be. But guys, he played 13 games last year and he had 6.5 sacks. I mean, it's not like the guy's absolutely useless. I'm just saying, if you're going to bring in another defensive end here, didn't we talk about this during free agency? Like we want to, instead of seeing the Bears continue to add like a plethora of players, like quantity over quality, and hope one of these guys has a career year. Just go get a guy you know can sack the quarterback, right? Like, just if that's what you're looking for, a guy who can get after the quarterback, then go get a guy who's proven over his career that he can get after the quarterback. Stop signing guys who are notorious for getting 2.5, 3, 4 sacks and hoping they have a good year and have 6 or 7. Go get a guy like Smith, go get a guy like Judon, go get Von Miller, and put him out there on third downs and hope he can get you 5, 6, 7, 8 sacks. If I'm the Bears, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I would probably myself, I think Von Miller's days are spent. I'd probably stay away from him. But the other 3, Clowney, Smith, and or Judon, I would be happy. And they're all around the same age, 31, 32 years old. So
yeah, and you know, Clowney may not have the best sack numbers of the 3, but Clowney can do everything.
He's really good against the run.
Yeah, you don't have to take him off the field on first and second down. Clowney is an all-around good football player, and Clowney didn't have a bad season last year. The Panthers just know they're not in a position where they're going to the Super Bowl, and there's no point to paying him, so they released him. But Clowney should be on a team by the start of the season, no doubt. That guy is still a good football player for sure.
You guys think that it's possible, though, that the Bears believe that adding any one of these guys is not going to have enough impact to spend the money on it?
So spend a little bit less on a Tano Kpassagnon and not
or none of them, and just stick with what you got moving forward, because you don't believe truly that one of these guys is going to make that big of an impact and increase.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you see yourself as, like, let's say a 55 sack team, do you think if you're adding one of these guys you're going to get 60 to 65, or are you just paying a guy to contribute to the all around effort that is probably a middle of the pack pass rush?
If I'm the Bears, I'm not really as much worried about the sack totals as I am. Can one of these guys add a win to the Chicago Bears on the schedule? Like, can Jadeveon Clowney come in here, a team's driving on us with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and he gets a sack, strip fumble, and somebody picks it up? Like how many impact plays do these guys have left in them? And like Sean said, Darius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney, I think those guys could win you a game. I think they still have enough in the tank to have a major impact for this team. And maybe it's how a lot of these old veterans guys, they'll have like 3 or 4 really big splash games a year, and then the rest of the year they're kind of quiet because they're old and tired and they just don't have the same motor that they used to. But if you could get that out as Darius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney, I'm all for it, man. It just depends on how much you want to give them. I mean, like I said, I don't believe the Bears are capable of winning the Super Bowl this year. I just don't think they have the depth. So what do you spend the money on at this point?
I don't think their pass rush can be greatly improved by any of these individuals in free agency. I think their pass rush is going to finish somewhere behind the middle of the pack. And I don't think much is going to change that, man.
I think it all lays on the shoulders of Deo and Austin Booker. I think if he turns those pressures into sacks and Austin Booker becomes the guy they traded for and expect him to be, then this defense.
I have a lot more faith that Austin Booker can develop into an effective pro player with this coaching staff. So that's kind of what I'm saying is, can maybe this staff get more out of the guys that are on this roster versus going to find a veteran guy that might contribute, at least in giving your guys a break. But I'd like to see that the guys that are on this roster get a fair chance with guys that can actually put them in a position to succeed, man.
Yeah, I still think there's a lot of potential that could be had on here. And I know Kyle's touched on this in the past that, maybe these draft picks aren't as bad. They just haven't had the proper coaching in the league. And we're going to find out, man. I mean, we've been watching just these first few days of rookie camp and the first OTAs where they're getting after their ass. They're kicking them in the butts. They're getting them going. It looks like a different training camp than what we've seen around here. The marshmallow fluff training camps where no one talks bad to each other. And, it's
Well,
take the fucking cones.
Sean, it should be by default, right? I mean, if we know for a fact, guys, if we know after watching the Bears over the last few seasons that Matt Eberflus really wasn't good at anything. I mean, he wasn't good at game management. He wasn't good at discipline. He was not a leader of men. He wasn't good at teaching, coaching. He didn't address mistakes in practice. How could we just not? It should be safe to assume that these guys are all probably going to be a little bit better. I mean, if they have real, especially you're talking about guys like Bill Johnson, Dan Rocher. I mean, guys who have been around football for 40 years, have 40 years experience. They should know every secret in the trade. They should certainly make these guys better immediately. They should have an immediate impact on this roster.
And Dennis Allen does a really good job at disguising pressure, and I don't necessarily just mean blitzing with your nickels or your linebackers. He's going to run a lot of stunts, and they have loaded their roster with really athletic defensive tackles. I mean, between Grady Jarrett, Gervon Dexter, and now you've got Turner, who they just drafted. These are guys who will probably maybe not line up over the tackle, but they'll get outside on a lot of these plays. And a guy like Gervon Dexter, when he's moving, man, when he's off the snap, if he's coming from the outside, I like that a lot. I mean, he's kind of both guys, Turner and Dexter, are guys to me that could potentially play the edge if they were to maybe slim down a little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely more of an aggressive coach here, man, and his aggressive play calling is definitely aiming to take the fight to the offense. So it's going to be a different kind of aggression, I think, on that side of the ball that could lead to some surprising sack numbers, especially if the scheme fit is for some of these athletic players that they have. I mean, Dexter and Jarrett right now are attached at the hip. And he's helping him out. And I mean, I couldn't think of a better player. So Grady Jarrett's had a really good career in the NFL. And if he's going to help the progression of Dexter, you think you're going to be able to get a little bit more out of him, because I still think Dexter is an extremely talented defensive lineman whose potential has not been reached yet. But I think will be elevated as we're speaking about this coaching staff. They're going to take him to this next level. And I think you could see some increased sack numbers from the front of this defense. My biggest problem is the second half when you get to these linebackers. Is Edmonds going to return back to his Pro Bowl form in Buffalo behind these guys? Their effect could affect them as well. So I don't know. I do think though the staff will elevate everybody. I do. I 100% do.
Just the culture itself should elevate everybody. And like you said, Sean, you had players like, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find a player. Who do you think is a better defensive lineman in the history of the Atlanta Falcons than Grady Jarrett? He might be the best defensive lineman that ever played for the Atlanta Falcons. And now this guy is here coaching the youth of the Chicago Bears. I mean, there's definitely a reason the Bears decided to add him to this roster. And it's not just because of what he's done in his career. It's because I think first of all, I think he holds people to high standards and expects a lot. And I think he's going to, when he play next to these guys, they've already talked about Grady Jarrett starting to get come down hard on some of these kids. So I hope that shit continues, man. I'd like to see as much of that as we possibly can. Sean, we're going to see it at training camp. So we'll see.
Too, it's your Grady Jarrett. It's the same thing they did with Tooney. They got a veteran leader that is great at football on both sides of the ball. They got extra coaches that will be playing on the field. It's fantastic. I mean, it's truly fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and another guys, I've given him shit a lot. We've been very critical of him, but Ryan Poles drafted a lot of athletic players who we knew were going to take some molding and some development. And like Kyle just stated, this former staff wasn't good at that. Honestly, the last 4 or 5 coaching regimens here haven't been very good at that. And I'm wondering, a former 3rd round pick that I'd imagine that Ryan Poles doesn't just want to cut. It's really hard for Ryan Poles to move on from his draft picks. He's super stubborn about them. Can these guys develop Zack Pickens into any bit of an impactful player? I mean, at all? I mean, it's a 3rd round pick. You have got to try to get something from this kid before you just move on from him, right? Do you think the guys like Garrett and Bill Smith, I think that's his name, right? Bill Smith.
Bill Johnson.
is it Bill Johnson? And then what's the Jeremy Garrett, the actual defensive line
Oh,
coach?
yeah.
Do you guys think that they can do better with Zach Pickens than this previous regime did? I mean, this is a really, really, really athletic football player. He got injured, and that was weird too. As you guys remember that in the beginning of the season, they kind of played it off like he could come back week 1.
Yeah.
And then it was like set stone by week 2 that it was like a 8-week injury. Like the guy was out for half the year. So maybe this staff looks at him and sees some potential there too, man. I mean, if they think that their pass rush could come majority from the interior defensive line, I have no problem with that either. It doesn't have to be on the edge, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've done some deep research into Zach Pickens over the last few years. I mean, since the Bears drafted him, and he didn't meet expectations in high school. He didn't meet expectations in college, and here he's in the NFL, and he's still not meeting expectations. Basically, what I see in Zach Pickens is a guy who has the physical traits but could never put it together between the ears, and it seems like that's going to continue in the NFL. Now, Vernon, if he did, that's just a luxury, right? Because I think most Bears fans expect him to be cut. So if this coach staff could somehow get anything out of him at all, if he's just an average middle of the road type player, but he can come in and eat up some snaps for you, I'd say the Bears take that as a win.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on the fence and say I'm pretty done with this. I just maybe he can come out and prove me wrong, but
If that's the case, man, we made a list, guys. We've kind of preached this over the course of this last year on this podcast here, but like that is such a bad miss for Ryan Poles. I mean, you took a 3rd-round talent who might not make this roster 2 years later.
Well, it's not just
That
a third
is
round. That
unheard of.
wasn't he like the 3rd pick in the 3rd round? He was high. He was up there. He was
I
right
know-
after. He was right
I know
after
that-
Dexter.
I know that if you Googled 3rd-round picks that are cut after 1 year, it's going to be a very, very, very small list, and 2 of Ryan Poles' picks are on it, man. I mean, it's not good.
It's 3, right? Isn't it 3? It's 3.
What do you mean?
With Vivelas Jones, Zach Pickens. There was another
Yes.
one. Who did he take in between those two? The year in between those two. There was another one too that did not pan out here.
I thought Pickens was the 3rd rounder immediately after Vivelas Jones.
There was another one. Oh, well, Karan Amagaji. Yeah, so Karan Amagaji is still question mark too. Yeah.
He's still a question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I there's no way the Bears
Pickens
are
was
moving on from
64th
Karan.
overall, so he was high up in that round.
Yeah, he was right after they drafted Javon Dexter late in the 2nd round, and then they came right back in the 3rd round and took Zach Pickens. And like I said, even when they were talking about him on draft day after the Bears drafted him, basically the synopsis of Zach Pickens was this guy has the physical tools and traits, but he's never really met his potential anywhere that he's ever gone. Like, well, that's not a good 3rd round pick.
What was strange is what I read about when they drafted the 2 of them, because they drafted Pickens and Dexter together. What I read was Dexter had the upper body strength. He was a beast of a man. He could barrel through just about anybody, but he had really bad technique. Very not fundamentally sound player who had a really, really, really bad jump count on the snap. He was never exploding off the line when the quarterback was yelling hike. And then they said on the other side, Pickens didn't have the accolades physically that Dexter had. He didn't have the strength, the upper body strength or lower body strength, but he was phenomenal at getting off the line. That he had some of the best technique in a tackle in that class. And that just hasn't come to fruition, man. So I don't. It would be really, really unfortunate, guys, if another 3rd-round pick is cut before his rookie deal even expires, man.
Yeah.
There's just no excuse for that. And if you're looking at another one in Ruben Hippolyte, a 4th rounder in a year from now, I mean, Ryan Poles in these mid rounds has got to start doing a better job.
Yeah, as I'm looking
And he hit on a punter, but I mean, come on, he took the best one in the draft. That was a gimme.
I think it was the only one in the draft.
He definitely Pickens had more strengths coming into the league than weaknesses. That's for sure. But he's not working out here. I mean, his strengths were above average arm length, quick hands, early recognition in response to blocking schemes, able to separate and maintain balance through contact, one gap athleticism, great foot quickness, works suddenly off blocks to tackle in his gaps, winning first step quickness in his rush. I mean, I don't think we've seen any of these strengths in the
Yeah, that's not the Zach Pickens I've watched. Maybe I don't know. Maybe hopefully, guys. I mean, not hopefully, but the hope would be that maybe that injury just never really healed up, and it just bothered him all season, and that's why he was so bad last year. But I mean, he like once again he left a lot to be desired. I watching Zack Pickens was rough last year, and obviously as a Bears fan, for a guy who was drafted in the third round, we're all rooting for him. Like we want him to go on the field and make plays. It's not like I don't like Zack Pickens, but from what I saw last year, it needs to be like a complete 180.
Well, he did suffer the injury last year, and it was really slow coming back. He didn't. Last year was a tough year for Zack Pickens outside of production. He just couldn't seem to get himself on the field. Guys, real quick, Flex Diggs, thanks for joining us on a holiday, man. We appreciate you. He says, I thought Ja'Tyre Carter was going to give us something. I think that's the tackle that Poles drafted in like the 6th round a few years ago.
Yeah.
Guard, I think. Yeah.
He was a guard.
I thought he was a tackle.
He was a guard.
He's
He's
6'3", 2 or 311. I mean, big dude.
He played some games for the Bears. I mean, I'm not saying he was a good player, but he did end up on the field. I mean, that's better than some of these. I mean, Velus Jones should never have stepped on a football field. Zack Pickens so far at this point should never stepped on the football field. I mean, once again, guys, we also have to ask ourselves, how much was the development of these players hampered by the fact that the old coaching staff here, the previous regime, just wasn't good at doing anything. I mean, anything. Maybe they couldn't identify Zack Pickens' weaknesses and coach him out of them. Maybe this coaching staff sees Zack Pickens in training camp and in preseason are like, you know what? There's potential here. This guy just needs to be coached up. Because obviously from what Jalen Johnson and DJ Moore and all these guys came out and said in their interviews last year, this coaching staff wasn't doing much of coaching anybody. They weren't holding anybody accountable in practice. They weren't rerunning plays when somebody made mistakes.
Well, no, and even worse, kind of the guys that had mishaps in practice. We know Tyler Scott was dropping the ball, was just a healthy scratch. I was saying this on our last show with the bare minimum with me and Sean. Like, you have got to get these guys on the field, and even in games, you've got to get these guys exposure. You've got to get these guys. It looked to me like the coaching staff pretty much just quit on anybody who didn't meet their standard. It wasn't like, hey, he's struggling here, we need to work more with this and we need to make sure he gets it right. It was just sit down, get in your sweats on Sunday. We're never going to see you again. That's what it felt like to me. Every player that struggled on this Bears team just disappeared. Did you guys notice that?
Well,
you didn't hear about anybody getting extra work or having to run laps in practice.
It seemed like there was a lot of favoritism towards contract bias in the last regime. And if you had a bigger contract, I know, Kyle, you and I talked about this during the season when we were watching the games. It was contract bias. It didn't matter if someone else came in and did well. If you had a bigger contract, you were going to continue to get the opportunities. And that was under the old regime. And that's just the way it seems.
The Nate Davises of the world.
Yeah, like the Nate Davis. How many chances did this guy get? And you know what? That's a perfect segue into, guys, our second topic of the day, which is we've seen signs with the new leadership, a competent draft. We got a franchise quarterback. On paper, this team looks more like a cohesive unit than we've seen in years, right? Are the Bears finally aligned from the front office to the sideline? Have we figured it out in Chicago? Are we all buying into this, or are we just, hey, man, we're going to wait and see? Well,
real quick, I want to say what's up to Sean, our brother, man. He just jumped in the chat here. Silver Steel, he says, I think you're going to see a lot of players on this roster surprise and even shock some people due to what Ben Johnson will be able to get out of them. I agree with him 100%. I think there's definitely going to be a diamond in the rough somewhere in this roster, no doubt about it. Somebody's going to come in and step on the field and be like, where has this guy been? How has this guy not been playing a full time for the Chicago Bears? Like Sean, like you said, like last year, Darrell Taylor started off the season really strong, but once he started to fizzle out towards the middle of the season, he basically became almost absolutely obsolete because he couldn't stop the run. And that's all he's there for is to rush the quarterback. He couldn't do that. Why wasn't Austin Booker not taking those snaps? This is a guy you just traded for in the draft. You might as well see what you got in him and give as much opportunity as you can. And now we'd be sitting here talking about how Austin Booker had got that rookie season where he got enough playing time to the point where he should be making a giant leap this year. This is basically going to be his rookie season. With the coaching,
he played somewhere in like the 240 snaps, I think, which is really a low number for a guy you drafted.
Yeah.
When you had a lot of players at that position that couldn't play, and I got to agree with Sean too or Silver Steels that I would imagine. To me, guys, the last two regiments, the Matty Reflus Bears, the Matt Nagy Bears, they had a scheme. They tried to draft players that fit the roles they needed to succeed in their scheme. And if a guy didn't really fit the mold, they just kind of abandon it, where Ben Johnson is going to take players and build something around what they do best. And I don't just mean Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson's going to do this for each player on his roster. We talked about it when they drafted Colston Loveland. You know he has plans for this kid. But you've got to think that some of the guys that exist on this roster already will have the same opportunity presented to them. Like, hey, if he decides to keep Tyler Scott on this roster, Tyler, this is what you're good at. This seems to be what you succeed at. This is how you thrive. This is what you're going to do. This is the role you're going to play, and you're going to do nothing more. And that's okay. If a guy's built for one thing and one thing only, and if you can get something out of him in one specific area of the field, that's fine. But Ben Johnson will at least be able to identify that, unlike our last regime, right?
I'm gonna throw one name out there, and I've said his name before, and I'm gonna say it again because I believe there's something there, and I believe this staff might be able to get it out of him. 6'2", 253 pounds, just a little under the weight that Dennis Allen loves for a guy that he can bring off the edge. But former Oregon linebacker Noah Sewell, I still think has some potential to make impact on this football team. And I hopefully we're going to see him get his opportunity. Another guy I just didn't feel like had an opportunity in the other regime that was here previous. This is a guy who came in. He did fall to the 5th round. He was supposed to, he fell a little bit further in the draft than he was supposed to. But go look at his athletic traits, man. He was an absolute stud at Oregon. I absolutely think that this guy could be somewhat of a guy that comes out of nowhere. And we're like, where's this guy been all this time? I don't know if you guys have anybody on this roster in your mind. But that's the guy that kind of sticks out to me from an athletic profile and something along the lines that Dennis Allen looks for.
Well, Sean, for me, it's an obvious one. I would not be surprised at all if Tyreek Stevenson ends up in the top 15, 20 corners in the NFL conversation. I think the guy has the athletic traits to do so. I think he takes chances when it's necessary. I think he's good at tracking the ball. I think the Bears just found a way to screw it up. And like we said, Tyreek Stevenson was playing really well until that Washington game, in which obviously he wasn't able to pull his head off his ass and was talking to the crowd in the middle of the Hail Mary play. But I think if they can hone him down a little bit, take that attitude and use it towards succeeding on the football field, I expect Tyreek Stevenson to have a much better season than he did last year. That's why when people were talking about maybe moving him to safety, it's like, hey, let's see what this coaching staff can do. Let's see what Al Harris can do with Tyreek Stevenson as a cornerback before we decide we should start moving him around. Burn, is there anybody that comes to your mind that you think could be a much better player this season than last year?
Yeah, I think there's a guy who's on the fringe of making this roster, but when Ryan Poles drafted him, I really liked the pick, and I honestly think the guy's a pure football player. I don't know what position it is he needs to play, what position he's best, but I like Terrell Smith. I think Terrell Smith is a really sound football player. I think he's a very hard-hitting football player. He's got a keen for the ball. He's able to identify where it is. His first play as a Chicago Bears guy, he forced a fumble and recovered it himself. I mean, this guy has obviously the football IQ. I think that, like, again, the last regime just didn't do a good job at identifying where he might fit best because, and I don't remember who it was. There's somebody who's been in this chat a whole lot that's advocating. It was Howie who's advocating for him to play strong safety. If Jaquan Brisker gets injured, I wouldn't mind seeing Terrell Smith get a shot back there, guys. I mean, he is just a guy. He kind of zeroes down on the ball and he hits real hard. And when it comes to at least the run game, that's the guy you want in that position.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see Ruben Hippolyte getting a little play at that strong safety position as well.
Oh boy.
I'm just
another guy I think is going to fly under the radar, but might actually get some significant playing time, especially if there's any injuries. If he makes this roster, is Roschon Johnson. I still don't think we've seen enough of Roschon Johnson's to make a decision on whether or not he's good enough to play in the NFL. I mean, first of all, you guys, DeAndre Smith averaged over 4 yards a carry every year of his career until he got to the Chicago Bears and it dropped to 3.7. I mean, people are like, well, man, Roschon Johnson does not look good. Nobody looks good. Look at their offensive line. Nobody looks good. How could you possibly look good? Roschon Johnson just got drafted.
Well, Roschon's a guy who'll benefit from a much improved interior offensive line.
Yeah,
Roschon Johnson is not an edge rusher to me. He's not fast enough to get outside.
He's not an edge rusher.
He's a guy who will benefit. Yeah, he will benefit from really quality blocking up front, and I think Roschon Johnson will definitely improve from what he's done in his career so far.
Well, there's no bigger advocate for Roschon.
He's going to be on this roster, guys. He's going to make this team.
There's no bigger advocate for
Roschon.
Roschon
If they sign another running back.
myself. I'm really hoping that Roshan gets his opportunity.
I still think he will, man.
Here.
I still think
So,
I think you're going to move forward with 4 guys.
Yeah, Sean, you've been
I
saying
think-
that. Sean's been preaching Roshan Johnson since day one, and you know how much they talked about him coming out of the draft. Like they were saying that was the steal of the draft. There was people saying that was the steal of the 2024 or 2023 draft. I mean, that guy at least should be getting some playing opportunity just to see what you got. You drafted him. He's here. He's going to be here for another 2 years. Just see what you got. You might. What does it hurt?
Dante says, "Get well soon, Dustin." I think did Dustin say anything about being ill, guys? I think he's just I think he's still just taking care of his newborn child, man. So yeah, God bless him and best to him and his family. But he will be back soon, guys. And then Bruce says, hit that like and subscribe, everybody. Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that. Dante Purify also says, guys, like me, I think you guys want some of these pre-Ben picks to hit. I'd hate to redraft positions. Yeah, and the thing is too, Ryan Poles is going to stick around. He got his 5-year extension, as Sean pointed out to me in the middle of the show last week. But most importantly, Ryan Poles he drafted these guys with a belief that they're going to be quality football players. There's no way that he's abandoned this idea already just because they failed under a coach he fired. You have to think that Ryan Poles is tying at least most of the failures of these players, these drafted that haven't gotten time on the field, to the coaches that weren't developing them. And Sean, we did a whole show about this on Thursday, and Kyle, I know I brought it up to you on the Monday show last week. I can't stress this enough. The difference that it makes to have coaches that can develop the mid-round picks into quality football players when you almost knew under Matt Eberflus, if a guy was drafted in the 5th round, he's ass. He's going to be ass.
You mean develop the players who are drafted to be developmental players?
Yeah, the guys who Ryan Poles saw something in, but knew he's probably not well-rounded, but he's got some, there's some things here that flash to me. There's some things that jump off the page, but he's going to need some guidance. And then they got to the coaching staff that Ryan Poles had here, and he was probably like, well, the guidance is out the window. I mean, that's not going to happen. So I'm with you, Dante. I think that some of these guys that were previously picked on during Ryan Poles' tenure, and most importantly, Ryan Poles' picks that we haven't seen play on the field a whole lot. I think that Ben Johnson is going to find some talent in some of these guys, and I think he has to. Ben Johnson didn't get all the guys he wanted. He got a few guys in free agency, and he got 7 players in the draft. He's going to have to utilize some of these guys that were on the existing roster before he took over. I do think, however, that Ben Johnson can make them better football players. And that's not me being biased. That's me, I think, grasping my head around the fact that we finally have coaches who are known. Sean, we went over this on the bare minimum, who have a track record of doing this with mid-round picks. I mean, guys, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 4th-round pick. Deron Bland, I believe, from the Cowboys was like a late 3rd or 4th round pick, and you saw Al Harris, you saw Antoine Randall turn these guys into Pro Bowl caliber players, really good football players. That's my hope.
Well,
really quick, one chain, no bracelets. First time viewer, I believe. So
one chains.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
We got something for you. Woo! Thanks, One Chain. Thanks for joining us, man, especially on a holiday. We appreciate your time and attention.
Yeah, I agree with what he's saying here. He says the crazy realization is if Ben Johnson hits, it's bigger than Caleb hitting. But if they both hit, we're in for a special. I agree with you, man. If that marriage between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams starts to develop quicker than we thought it was going to, and he can play well under center right off the bat, the Bears are a dangerous football team if they could stay healthy. And then Silver Steel says, Adunze about to go off, about to have a huge year. I agree with that as well. Sean, do you believe that the Bears front office is aligned?
I didn't a few months ago, but I'm starting to believe they seem to be all falling in line. It looks like Ryan Poles is in control of the team. It looks to me like at the beginning when we were all questioning it, it looked like Kevin Warren came to a point where he had to reel everything in, and he got everything to one point and said, all right, now that we're here, I'm going to handle this. Football operations handed over to you. You run the football team. Now we got Ben Johnson. He's running the field. It seems like they were all cohesive in their decisions for this draft. I mean, we talked about it in the past. Ben Johnson got his guy in Luther Burden. Then Dennis Allen got his guy, we hope, in Ruben Hippolyte. Al Frazier got his guy in Frazier. So it does seem to me there's a lot more alignment than I've seen, especially in the past regime that was here, where, like you guys were just saying, it kind of like, hey, we're going to try and plug these holes with these guys. We're not sure they're going to fit, but they look good on paper. That doesn't seem to be what happened here. And it seems to turn over. Like I said, now you got Kevin Warren focusing on the business side. You got Ryan Poles solely focusing on the football side.
Something you said that the difference I think Kevin Warren is making, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think he's been a huge part of a culture shift, guys. And I think more than we know.
I thought originally.
I think more than we know. I think more than we
Yes.
can even quantify. But Ryan Poles Kevin Warren has done exactly what a president should do, Sean. He's become the buffer between ownership and general management. That he has become the guy that stops George McCaskey from saying anything to Ryan Poles.
Brandon, I didn't say anything about George McCaskey because I honestly don't believe George McCaskey's in the bubble anymore.
No, I think Kevin Warren. Yeah, I think Kevin Warren kind of said to George, "Listen, you hire me to oversee this. If Ryan needs something, he'll come to me, and if I need you, I'll come to you. And you're going to hear it from me, not from Ryan Poles. But when you have something to say to Ryan Poles, you come to me. I'm the guy. That's what I'm here for. I'm the buffer. Like when a manager hires an assistant manager at any businessman and one of the employees has a complaint, they take it to the assistant manager before they go to the owner. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this is just how business works. And I think Kevin Warren said, Ryan Poles will report to me. If there's something that needs to be relayed to you, I will. If not, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. But George, stay the fuck away from Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. I got this. You know what I mean? That's how a successful organization runs, man.
And you want to know too, really quick, Kyle, I just wanted to throw in there that I think you see the alignment when you hand your GM a 5-year extension and say, hey, we believe in you. I'm here now. You're here now. This guy's in place. You have all of your coaches in line. You're all in this together. It's going to be shit. The ship's going to sail or it's going to sink, and it's going to be built on what they've given, the keys they've given them.
What's up, Darius?
What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, so it's what's surprising to me, guys, is for the Chicago Bears, an organization that's so prone to failure and so prone to making mistakes, they certainly have a short leash for everybody in the building, and it just doesn't make sense to me because it's like, hey, listen, we saw with Jay Cutler here. They replaced the offensive coordinator almost in a year-to-year basis. And I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that if Jay Cutler could have had some consistency with the playbook, the scheme, the offensive coordinator, he probably could have been a better quarterback from the Bears than he was. I think a lot of his struggles were due to the fact that he had to learn a entirely new playbook every season. It's the same can be said for the front office. Like, guys, even if Kevin Warren makes a few mistakes here and there, if Ryan Poles makes a few mistakes here and there, which he has, we know there's no Bears fan in the world that is not willing to admit that Ryan Poles has made some monumental mistakes, but he's a young GM. He's learning on the job. And then Ben Johnson's not going to be perfect here, especially as his first-time head coach. There's a lot more on his plate than there was as an offensive coordinator in Detroit. Let's let these guys make some mistakes, but let them spend some time together. You've got this. Now you've got Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson lined up here. Let them make a few mistakes here and there and see what the results are. I mean, you got to give them 2, 3, 4 years before you decide that this isn't working. And that's what the Bears have failed to do since I've been a Bears fan. It's like as soon as somebody, and it's either that or it's the opposite. Like Ted Phillips was an absolute joke, just an absolute joke. The guy had no idea what he was doing for the Chicago Bears. He actually admitted that numerous times, guys. He was a bean counter. He was an accountant that they made the president.
He was opposed to hiring Matt Eberflus, though. I'll give him that. He was opposed to that decision.
Yeah, but he was the guy who brought.
That's what almost got him fired.
Yeah, but he was the guy. He's the guy who brought Bill Polian in here, paid him $6 million to do the coaching search, and he's the one who picked Matt Eberflus. So, like at the same time, it's the same thing as like if you hate Matt Eberflus and you love Ryan Poles, you still have to give Ryan Poles the credit for retaining him and say, hey, Ryan Poles, that was a major mistake. It's the same thing for Ted Phillips and Bill Polian. I mean, Bill Polian was the game had passed him.
Darius says Ted Milhouse. Ted Milhouse Phillips.
I mean, the game had passed Ted Phillips by years ago. He was never really a football guy to begin with. He was an accountant that they turned into the president of football operations. They held on for way too long, but it seems like anybody else that came here had like this long of a leash and they would fire him immediately. Like, I think for once the Bears have kind of done this right. Even if it wasn't perfect, guys, I'm not saying it was perfect, But it's looked the most normal to me. Of like it looks like it matches up with what other organizations in the NFL are doing, teams that have had success. And if they can to continue to make these moves, even if there's some bumps in the road, which you should expect, right? I think this team is setting themselves up for long-term success. I mean, look at all the players on this roster. All the young guys are going to be here for a long time. Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, Darnell Wright, all the young talent. And you have that core, just like you have that core coaching staff, and now you have that core front office. And then you just got to add pieces here and there, and you're going to see guys leave. You're going to see some guys go, but keep the important guys here for as long as you possibly can.
And the one thing people can't forget is this thing was still done backwards. Ryan Poles was hired.
Absolutely.
Kevin Warren was hired after Ryan Poles.
By Ryan Poles, Sean.
Yeah, I guess by Ryan Poles. Not really, but George McCaskey, but it was done ass backwards to every organization. And I think that was a big question coming into this because I think there was some discord and there was speculation of that during the head coaching search of Ben Johnson. There was some reports there might have been some discord, but they seem to iron it all out, and everyone seems to be really happy. So I'm pretty happy with where management is. For the first time, I can say that in a very long time as a Chicago Bears fan. That's for sure.
Let me say this about alignment, guys. After we kind of discussed what the show is going to be about, I thought about this for a while. I thought about this long and hard, and honestly, I think it's ironic. Ben Johnson stated that he wants alignment from the organization that he's going to take a job with, and I think Ben Johnson is the alignment that this franchise required. And I think this because if you had hired a Mike Vrabel, let's say, right, you have your existing GM, you have the GM who wanted the quarterback he got, but that presents the idea that, like this Bears franchise been through again and again and again, the coach didn't draft the quarterback. It's not his guy. That's where the alignment would normally fall apart. That's where you break the alignment. This isn't Ben Johnson's quarterback. But because you hired a guy like Ben Johnson, who does the best he can with quarterbacks and getting the most out of them like he did in Jared Goff, that's the difference. Ben Johnson doesn't need to draft his quarterback. He likes the quarterback that's here, and he's going to do the best he can to make him the best football player possible. So if you had hired a Mike Vrabel, I think the alignment's still very sketchy. You know what I mean? I think you're still a bit of a teeter here because who says Mike Vrabel doesn't in a year from now say, this Caleb Williams kid isn't my kid. I didn't draft this kid. I don't want this kid. Ben Johnson's going to take Caleb Williams as a challenge to himself. He's not going to at any point tell Ryan Poles, this isn't my quarterback. I didn't draft him. I don't want him. He's going to tell Ryan Poles, I think your last regime in his rookie season kind of messed him up a little bit. He could have been better than he was. He's got some traits that I like, but he can be a better football player. And that's where I come in.
Well, actually,
that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm going to do.
If you look at the two scenarios, the Bears and Patriots are actually very similar situations. I mean, Mike Vrabel was hired to a team that believes they found their franchise quarterback who was not drafted by Mike Vrabel and Drake May. If Ben Johnson's dealing with the same thing here in Chicago with Caleb Williams, I do think the upside is much higher for Caleb Williams than it is for Drake May. And that's no disrespect to Drake May because I think he's going to be a good quarterback.
What, Kyle? Thomas Brown's the passing game coordinator. What are you talking about?
But I do think I think Caleb Williams is going to be special. I think Drake May is going to be really good. But yeah, Bernie, you're right. I think I mean, Sean, you can tell me if you disagree, but we were kind of questioning whether or not they were doing this thing right, if they were fixing their mistakes, if they were starting to get it right. Yeah. And I think the addition of Ben Johnson kind of cemented that for most Bears fans. Like, all right, I think they finally have this train back on the track and it's going in the right direction. You know, for the last 20 years, the Bears have been that team that's like, we're lost, but we're making good time. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, you guys are idiots. You're doing everything wrong. And the fact that they did everything backwards.
They never showed up.
Yeah.
And that's midnight. The Bears aren't here yet.
And like Sean says, they did everything backwards, but it seems like they did correct some of the mistakes and they're finally starting to get this thing back on the right track. And that's good to see. And I think you're right, Sean. I think it has to, I don't know if it's because Virginia passed away, but I think it's because George doesn't have his fingerprints on anything in here at all.
And haven't you alleviated the that's not my guy syndrome that existed in this organization?
These are the guys.
Because Ryan Poles can say, this is my guy. This is the coach I want. This is the guy. I was wrong about Eberflus. That's okay. I moved on and I fired him, which most GMs in this organization don't do because Kevin Warren let him. But more importantly, Ben Johnson can say, I chose this job because of Caleb Williams, and that is my guy. I don't care if I drafted him or not. I chose to coach him, and I'm embracing the challenge of making him the best he can be. So there is no person in this organization who's going to say to the next guy, that wasn't my guy, because Sean, and it's always a scapegoat, isn't it? Isn't it always just a chance to hold on to one more year for
Yeah.
yourself? Like, oh, don't fire me. That's the guy that sucks, and I didn't choose him. He's not my guy. You know what I mean? I think this organization has alleviated that entirely. I don't think any one of these guys is going to say about the next, well, I shouldn't be fired because that's not my guy. I didn't choose him. I wanted somebody else.
Yeah, real quick, guys. Let's get to some of these comments. So Flex
I
Diggs.
want to get to this last comment really quick because I just wanted to say, I was waiting for you guys to wrap up. Why should a GM learn on the job? I wasn't a fan of it either, but if he gets us to the ultimate prize, you'll ask yourself,
well, everybody learns on the
Yeah,
job.
I mean, everybody has to start somewhere. That's the one thing. Like you guys there was a time in which Howie Roseman, the best GM in football for the Philadelphia Eagles, was not a GM, and he had to be hired as GM and had to learn at some point. You could say that about any position in any job in the world. At some point, everybody in the world who's ever done anything did it for the first time ever once before. Like everybody. But real quick, I want to say what's up to Laz. Thank you so much for joining us. What's up to Darius, Emil O'Neill, Breaking News, Bruce, Flustigs, Crooked Commiss, Silver
Has Laz
Steel.
ever been here before?
I don't know if I've ever seen Laz here.
Laz, we appreciate you coming out, especially on a holiday. Sean,
I think I'm going to do
that's
it.
all right. We're going to give him one anyways.
Yeah, I like what Darius says here, guys. He says, I'm just glad.
All right.
That's for you, Laz. Thanks for joining the show, man. Thanks for the comment. Keep them coming.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Laz. We appreciate you, man. Darius says here, I'm just glad the Bears finally have any direction at all. And I agree with you 100%, Darius. It seems like this staff knows what they want and they know what they have to do to get there.
Well,
Emil O'Neill says, Poles has to do better job drafting linemen. No edge rusher drafted in the first 3 rounds since Poles has been with the Bears. That's extremely bad, especially for a former offensive lineman.
And Darius, one direction. They finally have one direction because the Bears have tried where this guy's going that way and that guy's going this way and this guy, you know what I mean? Everybody's been like Matt Nagy wanted his thing to be what it was, and the defensive coordinator was never really, Shane Waldron wasn't on the same page as Matt Eberflus. So it felt like everybody wanted to kind of run their own ship, and there was no captain. And now it feels like everything that Ben's going to implement is what everybody else is going to be in tune to.
And then Flex Diggs, this is one of my favorite comments today here. He says, I wanted variable because of his track record, but the benefit of having Ben Johnson is we don't have to worry about losing our OC if we have a good season, and Caleb won't have to learn a bunch of new offenses either. Yeah,
and
it doesn't.
Flex, you're not going to worry about losing Dennis Allen either because he failed as a head coach. He's not getting a promotion anytime soon. And I'm not being a dick. It's just that's just what it is. He's not
it's Dennis Allen's in a very similar situation as Vic Fangio in Philadelphia. He might as well stay there for the rest of his career as long as he wins Super Bowls. And then the same can be said about. It's a very similar situation for Ben Johnson as for Andy Reid in Kansas City. Like Andy Reid, it doesn't matter how many offensive coordinators he goes through. The Chiefs are always going to have a good offense because ultimately the mastermind is Andy Reid, and that I'm hoping what Ben Johnson is for the Chicago Bears, and it looks like that's what he's going to be. I mean, you guys, the Detroit Lions were the absolute joke of the NFL for the last Sean? 50 years, 50, 60 years. And then for the first time ever in the history of the Detroit Lions, they're in the top 5 in total yards and points per game 3 years in a row, all due to Ben Johnson. So I hope he takes that same mentality, the same innovative mindset, and comes here to Chicago and turns this into an offensive powerhouse. And I think the Bears are finally putting the pieces in place to be capable of doing something like that. I think this team's going to be special. Maybe not 2025, guys, but this team's going to be special.
Well, and that's something I wanted to talk about, guys. We're talking about alignment. We're talking about who gets fired next. That's what alignment is, right? Is everybody a part of one linear path here, right? Is Ryan Poles, Sean, we discussed it a little bit last week, is Ryan Poles on a hot seat if the record's not improving with the new tenure? I mean, or with the new staff. If Ben Johnson and
not anymore.
Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams aren't winning you football games, as good as this looks, guys, if you come out and you win 6 games next year, is Ryan Poles in trouble?
Here, I'll say it like I said it on the bare minimum on Thursday. Fans can be upset if this doesn't work out, but the fans got exactly what they asked for. So if Ben Johnson doesn't work out, this staff doesn't work out, Poles will be the scapegoat, but it won't be a fair one.
Well, so Sean, what are you saying?
Hold on, from Caleb Williams to Ben Johnson to the trade for DJ Moore. Everything that's happened, we've asked for it. We've got it. If it doesn't work out,
But Sean, you just said
I feel sorry for Ryan Poles because I think he got it right this time.
But so that's what I'm asking you. So you said if Ben Johnson doesn't work out, which guy are you holding accountable?
It's gonna fall. It's gonna fall on on Ryan Poles.
Yeah, he'll be the scapegoat, but that doesn't mean he's solely responsible for what. If this turns into a disaster, that doesn't.
So
mean
do you think there's a possibility that Ryan, if it doesn't get better in terms of, because guys, it's about winning football games.
Sure.
So if you're not improving, your record's not improving year in year out. Is Ben Johnson stick around and Ryan Poles get canned, or is it all you get rid of them all together because the alignment is here? They all came in. These guys are all one unit, and we're going to clean house from top to bottom. I mean, is there another scapegoat here? That's what I guess that was my whole point. As Kevin Warren say, Ryan Poles wasn't my guy, or are they all accountable the same?
Well, that's the point I made 10 minutes ago. This is what I'm saying. Like, you guys, if you really want to give this a chance to work, even if the Bears come out next year, 2025, and then go 5-12, just like they did last year, and that's basically just linear growth. They haven't moved up in any way, shape, or form. Be patient. Give it some time. This is a brand new playbook for a second-year quarterback. He's basically going to be rookie this season. Give it some time. If the Bears do this thing again where they're like, everybody gets a short leash, and if it doesn't work out with Ben Johnson here, we're firing Ryan Poles, we're hiring a new GM, and now you're going to have a new GM who did not pick his coach.
The alignment is broken.
Let these two. I would keep Ryan Poles here through the contract of Ben Johnson. And if it doesn't work after that time span, then fire everybody and go get a GM.
So you have alignment because Kyle, you're firing. It's clean house. So you have alignment because if one guy fails, they all fail, and they're all accountable the same.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I'm okay with what you're saying because that to me says alignment. That says alignment to me. If you think they all succeed together or they all fail together and we move the fuck on, that is alignment because that's what winning organizations do, top to bottom. Yeah. It's done. It's a new project now.
I think based on the contracts, my answer would be yes. I mean, again, I'm with Kyle. I just don't want everyone jumping ship in week 3 if it's not running like the Detroit Lions.
Well, Sean, how many times have we seen Bears fans do that? I mean, dude, by all accounts, Mitch Trubisky was the number 1 general consensus quarterback prospect in that draft.
That's my
he got drafted, and everybody's like, the Bears are so stupid. I'm like, guys, all the experts in the world told the Bears to draft Mitch Trubisky. The same could be said about Kevin White. By all accounts, he was supposed to be the best receiver in that draft. He just dealt with a bunch of unlucky injuries. Everybody's like, the Bears are so stupid. Sometimes you just have bad luck, guys. Sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear eats you. I mean, you could draft guys who have all the potential in the world. Look at Trevor. You guys, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next coming of Jesus on a football field. Look at that guy. Are the Jaguars dumb for having drafted Trevor Lawrence? No, absolutely not. He's just not as good in the NFL as he was at the collegiate level.
Well, and his coaches have been Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson. I mean, you want to talk about the destruction of a player from the inside out.
I mean, but the same could be said for Justin Fields, right? I mean, look at the coaches that Justin Fields played under here.
100%.
I don't think it's worse than Urban Meyer, man. You want to set somebody up to fail.
Did Justin Fields ever have a realistic chance of developing into a good quarterback under Matt Eberflus? No. Well,
the real question was, were they developing the right things? And the answer is no. I'm trying to make him something that he wasn't. That's where Justin Fields failed.
I'll tell you guys this right now. If this thing doesn't work out for Ryan Poles, his drafts are going to be the reason why.
100%. No doubt about it.
You have to draft. You have to succeed to build through the draft. First thing he said, you watch the successful teams in the NFL. We cannot continuously have our 3rd and 4th round picks fail. Well,
but to Sean, then is the difference though, after hiring a guy like Ben Johnson and bringing in Al Harris and Antoine Randall and Dan Rochar, is the difference that the guys that Ryan Poles was drafting in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round were who we knew were not immediate day 1 impact starters in the NFL. Were they done right? Was the process of developing those players done right? Absolutely. So I guess we're going to see now, guys, does a Ruben Hippolyte excel into being a quality football player under the coaches that can actually develop some fucking talent? Does Zay Frazier, who was drafted, 5th round? Does this guy become a quality football player under the tutelage of Al Harris? Are these guys making the mid-round picks who are projects, because they are? You're not getting a 1st-round talent in the 5th round. You're not smarter than anybody else. The Eagles and these teams that successfully put players from the bench into starting roles are making them starters. They're not drafting them starters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you guys, real quick, I just want to get to this comment. Illinois Jones says, I think it's sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you. The original saying is actually sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear eats you. The bear being the challenges of life. But the movie The Big Lebowski made that
some kind of Eastern thing.
Yeah, they made the phrase famous by, in the movie, they actually changed the phrase, the wordage to sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, which still makes sense. The bar offers, or it's like those challenges of life. I get it.
One chain says it here, and this is what I think the difference is Ryan Poles is not going to draft studs in the 5th round, guys. You want coaches who can make those guys better. That will be the difference under Ben Johnson in this staff are the guys who you're not projected to be Colston Lovelands still impactful players on the football team. That's why the Eagles win championships. They're deep from top to bottom because they make the bottom better, right? This is the one thing the Bears organization has never, ever, in my lifetime, we have never done this. We've never done it. Not from when I started watching this sport in 1999. I became a Bears fan in '99, guys. I have not seen mid to late round picks develop into quality football players. This is the difference to me in this staff that Ben Johnson surrounded himself with. These guys can make mid-round picks quality players.
Real quick, let's get to some of these chats here. Erica joined the party here. First of all, guys, thank you so much for joining us, Erica. We appreciate you as always. One of my favorite comments of the day here. Vizzo Joe says, if this resume doesn't work out, fire George McCaskey. Yeah, I wish they could do like a hostile takeover. And there is another guy who actually owns like 49% of the Bears, and if I wish there was a way he could do a hostile takeover. But FlexStig says maybe this season won't be great, but in the long run, I can't see BJ being a failure. I agree with you. I think Ben Johnson is very obsessive over the game of football. I think he strives for excellence in everything he does, and I think he's going to ultimately be a good coach here, even if it does take some time for sure. And then Erica says, I think we need to give Caleb a few years too. This is a brand new offense with a whole new coaching staff. Like you said, this is basically his rookie year. I could agree with you more.
Well, I think Caleb's the kind of guy that's going to surprise you. I think Caleb's going to get a hold of this thing pretty quick. And I agree with you. He deserves more time, but I think he's ahead of where most rookies would be embracing a new offense.
Yeah, and then Vernon, one chain, no bracelets, agrees with you. He says, hopefully we finally have some coaches that can develop these young players. And then Dante says Sean Post has secured 7 second-round picks in 4 drafts. Post has managed the picks well. He's managed to gain picks well.
He's managed to gain picks well. I'll never argue that.
Yeah,
who
is he drafting?
And are we in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? It is Tyreek Stevenson, a player worth trading up for.
Steelers. Go look at the Ravens. Go look at the Eagles. Go look at the teams that are in the playoffs every year. You definitely should be hitting on your 1st and 2nd round picks. But if you're consistently missing on your 3rd, your 4th, and your 5th round picks, you're building zero quality depth. You build through the draft, and that's what great organizations do. And that's why you kind of see the same 6 organizations in the playoffs every single freaking year.
And my point is, how responsible can you hold Ryan Poles for that? When he's drafting a guy in the 5th round who's a developmental project, guys, when you draft a developmental project, the player has to be fucking developed, or it doesn't matter what Ryan Poles does. If he sees a really strong strength, if he sees a strength in a player that he takes in the 5th round, like this guy's not a 1st round talent, that's why he's still sitting here. But I'm going to draft him because he does A, B, or C well. Then it's up to your coaches who you hire. It's up to the coaches to make that guy successful in whatever it is he's doing well. We don't fucking do that here.
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen, right? We should see it this year with new coaching staff.
I'll say this, Dante. He has managed those 2nd round picks well. That's why we're saying we have quality starters. We have been saying there's no depth behind him because he's failed to add that in the draft and/or free agency.
And Vernon's point is maybe not, and maybe it was just the coaching staff couldn't develop these guys.
Be.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out this year. Right? If Ben Johnson is the guy we think he is, they should be developing some of these draft picks that Ryan Poles has had.
Did I not just say I believe in a former 5th round pick named Noah Sewell? This guy had 60 quarterback pressures. He had 30 quarterback hurries. I mean, this guy had 10 sacks playing as an off linebacker in Oregon's defense in the Pac-12 where they don't play defense. This guy has an opportunity to shine if coached up correctly.
Well,
I still think there's something there.
Well, Sean, it's almost kind of like bittersweet if Noah Sewell's really good because now you basically owe him a contract extension.
And Kyle said Kyle read a lot of draft bios, guys, where Draft Buzz or whatever expert or scout it was that was writing
Yeah.
about these players was saying eventual starter, eventual. What
Yeah.
does the word eventual mean in the NFL? It means that there's a coach that can make
Coach,
this individual a better player at some point of his career because he's not a starter today. He doesn't do that on his own. Well, he's obviously contributes, but it's about the guidance that these guys receive. And if we drafted Trapillo to be an eventual starter, somebody on this staff is going to have to do that at some point, man. It's not like, oh, if he sits on the bench for 6 weeks and then comes in week 7, he's a starter. That's what we mean by eventual starter. He can sit down and watch, and then he's a starter.
that's not what
No,
that means.
somebody's working with the guy to make him what he's supposed to be eventually, right?
Yeah. And you guys, real quick, I just want to give a shout out to once again everybody in the chat here, everybody watching. Illinois Jones and Scottish Bear have joined the party here. You guys, happy Memorial Day! Thank you so much for joining us on this holiday. And we've got almost 50 people in the building here, guys. Anybody on Twitter, please go over to our YouTube channel and please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We can't stress how much we like the comments here, guys. It makes the show so much easier for us. And then Dante says, stratification, your potential third and fourth are actually additional first, second more Sweat and Claypool. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I also agree with Sean. I mean, everybody's right because none of the stuff that we're talking right now can be proven until we see what these guys do under Ben Johnson, right? You can't, we don't know if Nosu was a bad draft pick or if the previous coaching regimen just didn't have the skill set to develop.
They had something to do with it.
Oh, you'd have to know for a fact that it definitely had something to do with it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this coaching staff
was ass.
I mean, what Bears fan in the world could be like, you know what? Matt Eberflus was terrible at clock management. He was terrible at calling timeouts. He was terrible at disciplining his players and holding people accountable. But I bet you he was really, I bet you he was amazing at developing talent. Like, probably not. I just think that Matt Eberflus is better suited as defensive coordinator. Sean, anything else?
I love you, Dante.
We love you all, boys. We love you all.
I just don't agree with you, man, on this one.
And I shouldn't say boys. We love you too.
Well, that's sports. That's the point of this is disagreement.
Yeah, it's all
but yeah, Kyle, I mean, we saw an example in Tyreek Stevenson. It's a player who looks like he has the accolades to play in the NFL, but he's got to get his shit together.
And has had success.
And the guy is celebrating with the fans at the end of a game that they end up losing, and he misses one half of football. That's not what instills discipline. That's not how you make a player get their shit together the next time around, man. You think Tyreek Stevenson missed that one half and was like, I'll never do it again now? Jeez, I see what happens when I fuck up. I miss a half of football. Like, come on, that's not how you discipline a guy to do the right thing the next time he's presented the opportunity. And now Al Harris becomes the coach. And in the offseason, he's calling Tyreek Stevenson saying, I think you should attend this camp, dude. Yeah, not miss a half of football. I think you should spend your summer doing this.
Laz makes a really good point here as well. Maybe this is what the problem has been all along. You know, these quality assistant coaches, the top draft picks, free agents, and trades are all here because of Ben Johnson, not Poles. At least Poles put his ego aside and follows Ben's direction. Maybe Ben Johnson or Ryan Poles could have used help in these drafts, and maybe that's why. Maybe it's why he's missed on some of these draft picks because he's just overwhelmed. And maybe a coaching staff like they have here now with Ben Johnson, Al Harris, all these guys. They can assist Ryan Poles in the draft, and these draft picks will start to look better going forward. I mean, what's funny to me is everybody talks about how bad the Bears are, the organization, the Bears brass, but how many teams continue to try to hire Ian Cunningham away from the Bears, who's the assistant general manager for the Chicago Bears? I mean, they must be doing something right? There's got to be. They're doing something right here.
And Kyle, Ryan Poles, without direction, Ryan Poles is just drafting a player, right? Like, hey, this player looks pretty good. He does. I watched his film. You know, Ryan Poles is doing his homework. I watched his film. He does this well. But Ben Johnson might be the first coach who comes in and says, right, but does he fit this? This is what I'm doing. So if that guy's good, that's fine. But is he good at what I need him for? And that's why you see a Ruben Hippolyte, who's possibly not going to be drafted to the NFL, come here in the 4th round because maybe Dennis Allen told Poles, yeah, those other linebackers that are ranked ahead of Hippolyte are awesome. That's great. The guys that you've watched the film on, I like them too. But this guy serves this role in my scheme. That's why I want him, because he fits here. It's not just about the talent that he has and how it might be related to the NFL. It's how it's related to what Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen are doing on this football team. And I believe that Ben Johnson gave Ryan Poles a lot of direction in saying, I don't just need a receiver, I need this receiver. I don't just need a linebacker. I need this linebacker. That's what we need for our team. That's the oil this machine's going to need.
Yeah, and you kind of saw that with Luther Burden, right? There was receivers that were bigger guys, like Savion Williams, a guy you could take who's going to go up and get it, but he needed his particular type of receiver to play the slot. That's what they went and did. And real quick, I want to say what's up to Chris Wesson. I think I've seen you in here before. If not, I apologize. You guys are on the money. Everything you're saying is exactly right. I hope that he's not being facetious. So thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Emoji too.
And then I have never seen this name here before, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. 500 Mo.
That's for you, 500.
I don't think we have.
And then 500. What exactly? No disrespect, man. What exactly are you?
I think it's the injuries. I don't think we're going to hear much about that. And
with the little.
You know what? We got.
I think they're playing. I think they're playing safe. I really do. I think they're.
Let's see. We got another OTA coming up here. I have it listed. Hold on.
That soft tissue stuff sucks, though, man. It's really lingering.
The Bears are back the 27th through the 30th, so we'll be hearing if he's back out on the field or if he's not. Tomorrow, maybe. As soon as tomorrow.
Scottish, you always got some interesting stories, man. He was talking about rugby the other day. Now he's saying he coached Josh Taylor and Scott Harrison, both champion boxers. I agree that your players are only as good as your coaches. Maybe we need to get Scottish Bear on the podcast here, man. This guy sounds like he's a sports legend. And then Illinois Jones says,
"Yeah, I was Indiana Jones in my off time."
Illinois Jones has a question for us, guys. He says, "I'm not sure if you've talked about it. How concerned are you with Luther Burden?" Once again, I don't know if you're talking about the injuries or the character issues, but to be honest with you, I personally, Illinois Jones, I believe that Luther Burden was drafted into the perfect situation. I mean, we saw what the Lions were capable of doing with Jamison Williams. Obviously, he was a bit of a head case when he got to the NFL. I feel like they kind of figured it out there. They kind of got him back on track, honed his skill set in, honed that attitude in a little bit, and he became a much better player.
I think he's still nursing, by the way, guys. Still nursing soft tissue injury in his ribs.
Yeah, you know what? I don't expect him back. Rookie minicamp. They're going to have another rookie minicamp in June. Hopefully, he'll be ready for that one.
Yeah, and you know what, you guys? The goal for the OTAs and the training camp should be to get all these guys out of here as healthy as possible. That should be the goal. I mean, listen, obviously you want to instill the offense. You want to teach these guys as much as you possibly can, but ultimately the goal should be to make sure nobody's breaking legs, tearing ACLs, anything like that. And then Chris Weston says, we still need to focus on the offensive line. Chris, we talk about this on the podcast often. I think all of us could agree with you more. I think the Bears offensive line still has a lot left to be desired. If you look at the depth on the offensive line, it's not good, guys. If they sustain major injuries to the offensive line, they're going to be in trouble. But yeah, it's a work in progress. The Rome wasn't built in a day. Ultimately, I do like what the Bears did with the offensive line in the offseason, especially with adding or drafting Trapilo in the second round there. I think Trapilo does have the potential to be a starting left tackle. And even if he's not the best starting left tackle in football, I think he could still be better than Braxton Jones. And then you talk about guys like Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, and then Jonah Jackson. Obviously, Jonah Jackson's the biggest question mark of the bunch, but I think Ben Johnson can get the most out of him, and I think he gets back to kind of the way he was playing when he was under Ben Johnson in Detroit.
And Chris, listen, go back and watch our bare minimum show. We did talk about Dan Rocher and his ability to get Pro Bowl caliber production out of players that were drafted in mid-rounds. A guy like Luke Newman, a guy like Kyle State, Ozzie Trapilo. These are guys that you're hoping when their number's called, if so, God forbid, injury occurs, these guys are ready to play some football and they're ready to look like starters because that's what teams like the Philadelphia Eagles do, and that's why they win Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I love the Bears fans' expectation, guys. Braxton Jones is not the worst left tackle in the NFL, but we expect better, right? And we should, because we're the Chicago Bears, we're their chartered franchise, been around since 1926 when the original six. And the Bears should have figured this out in the 100 years that they've been a football team. Left tackle is one of the most important positions on the football field. You should have every team in the NFL should have elite tackle, especially if you have a right-hand quarterback, and that's his blind side. Sorry to cut you off, Joe.
No, I just agree with Scottish Bear here. I said this. I like Rome Odunze. I think he's going to be super, super good. But I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Luther Burden has all the attributes to be the best wide receiver on this football team. And that's not taking anything away from Rome Odunze because I think he's going to be exceptional as well. I just think that Luther Burden, if he keeps his head on straight, offers more things than what Rome Odunze can offer in an offense from a playmaking ability. But that's just me. I know I'm not sure everyone feels that way.
Yeah. Rome Odunze will put in the tough work. He will get you the doubles, the singles, the triples. But I believe Luther Burden's a home run hitter for sure. I think he's the kind of guy where if you just get the ball
Rome Odunze though is your best.
Touchdowns.
I think Romadunze, though, is your best deep ball receiver on this football team.
Sure.
I do think that's going to establish itself pretty early.
I wouldn't sell DJ Moore short on catching long balls, dude.
They're all going to be pretty good.
Not yet, anyways.
Romadunze has a contested catchability that nobody else on this football team. Not even the tight ends.
Remember what draft class had the highest grade for Colston Loveland was his deep ball ability. So I think they're all going to see work downfield at some point. Yeah, you guys, real quick, I think you see a lot of people in the chat here talking about specific players or specific position groups like defensive end, offensive line, linebacker. I've said this numerous times, guys. I'll say it again. I do not believe that anybody in this organization believes that this roster is complete. And I know the argument's always, well, the roster is never complete, but I'm saying, like, I don't think that the vision they have in their heads for what they want this team to look like, I think they know they're still missing 3 or 4 pieces, right? That elite running back, that Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs, that elite defensive end, that Bosa or Watt. I think this coaching staff and this front office organization know that they're still missing a couple of these guys. And like I said, once again, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is going to be a 2 or 3 year process now that Ben Johnson is here. He has to get his guys in here to run his scheme. Same could be said about Dennis Allen. You'll start to see the Bears add some of those guys in the next few years here in the draft and in free agency. I think this year they just want to make improvements and get better every day. Here, real quick, guys, Laz says Braxton will fall into the same situation as Justin. Rather than signing him to a large contract, move him for a cheaper that can be developed. Yeah, I would not re-sign.
I think they should. Because, Laz, I think Braxton's going to get that deal you're talking about from somebody. I hope it's not the Chicago Bears.
And then
I really do.
I don't know if you
get 18 to 20 million a year from some team in the NFL. I wouldn't do it.
Oliver Chapman, I think I've seen you here before. If not, I apologize. Thank you so much for joining the show, man. And he says, why does this Ben Johnson hire remind me of Dick Up? You know why it reminds me of Dick Up? Because I think both of these guys are going to be the 2 most successful coaches in the history of the Chicago Bears. That's why.
Accountability. That's why, Chapman. Accountability.
Yeah. And then real quick, just one more here. Scottish Bear says, I think Ben has watched the tape and noticed the slot central area had to be addressed. Loveland Burden will certainly help that area. I know you've said that before on the show, Scottish. Remember you said that maybe last week. Yeah, I agree with you. If you listen to Ben Johnson's interviews, he always talks about how it seems like the guys in the slot are the guys who end up getting the ball the most in this offense. And I think that's why he was so hard-pressed on getting Luther Burden here and Colston Loveland. And I think both those guys are going to play an impact for the Bears early and often. They're going to be immediate impact players for the Chicago Bears.
And towards the end of last season, it seemed that Caleb Williams really loved him some Keenan Allen, who was pretty often open in the middle of the field. This is where you think – and they didn't lose anything, guys, because Luther Burden is replacing Keenan Allen. And I agree with you, Sean. I think Luther Burden's a very special player. I think that he will be just as good a player as Keenan Allen is, and I know that's saying a lot, but I do believe that. And you still got Cole Kmet there, and all you did was just add a Colston Loveland. So, yeah, you're right, Scottish Bear. The middle of the field, which is where Caleb Williams seems to thrive most, if you ask me, just got a whole lot better on this Bears team. And I don't know if you're a linebacking core, if you're a defense approaching this Bears team, are you losing sleep over both Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, and Luther Burton all being on the inside of this field?
Should
Probably.
And, I just want to touch on Illinois Jones because he has a valid point here. And if anyone remembers, under Ben Johnson, Sam Laporta's rookie year, he set an NFL record with 86 receptions for a rookie tight end. He caught 10 touchdowns and 889 receiving yards. So a couple of weeks ago, I know I downplayed the ability of what Colston Loveland can possibly bring to this offense. And then I went back and I looked at this, and I'm glad that you said this, Illinois Jones, because I forgot – as a rookie, you generally think it takes a tight end a couple of years to grow into his position in the NFL.
Not a top 10 pick.
Yeah, not a top 10 pick, but sometimes with these top 10 picks,
tight end's a slow going role.
Yeah, tight end's a very, very tough position to learn. But he did do it with Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I mean, Laporta did it.
This guy is as talented as Sam Laporta.
And Sam Laporta can't line up as a wide receiver.
Correct.
Colston Loveland can. I mean, Colston Loveland, guys, Ben Johnson is licking his chops for this because this guy is going to be used in ways you haven't seen a tight end used traditionally in Chicago ever. I promise you that. We have never seen a tight end do the things you're going to see Colston Loveland do in this offense. He's going to line up outside.
I think he's going to be a lot like Greg Olsen.
A lot of people forget that Ben Johnson's background is a tight end football coach too. He loves tight ends. It's his background.
As is Declan Doyle.
Well, I might actually be thinking in fantasy about taking Colston Loveland maybe around tick earlier than I thought. I don't know, man. Just looking at those Sam Laporta rookie numbers, man, that's pretty damn impressive, dude. That's pretty.
I firmly believe Colston Loveland's a better player than Sam.
As I just stated, I expect both Luther Burden and Colston Loveland to have an immediate impact on the Chicago Bears. 500 Mo says Caleb started to realize Allen was getting open when he needed someone to go to. Yeah, he certainly became his security blanket towards the end of last season. I think that's kind of what the slot receiver is in the NFL. And then to your guys' point about Loveland and all these guys, I mean, we got to remember, guys. A lot of times it's with coaching staffs, like you say, Andy Reid in Kansas City, or it's just coaches at Harborough and Baltimore that have been there for a long time. Yeah, they tend to like groom guys and bring them along slowly because they're implementing their offense. But Ben Johnson, he's a first-time head coach here. He's probably going to try to get his guys, the guys he chose, on the field as early and often as he possibly can. I would not be surprised at all if Colston Loveland is playing 50% of the snaps week one. And the same could be said about Luther Burden. As a matter of fact, you guys, outside of Zacchaeus, who does Luther Burden have to compete with for the slot receiver? Because, I mean, there's really nobody else. I hope Luther Burden's on the field. As much as I like Zacchaeus, and I think he's a good depth piece, I don't think Zacchaeus is a good slot receiver in Ben Johnson's offense. You're talking about comparing Zacchaeus to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You need Luther Burden to be good.
Well,
you absolutely need Luther Burden to be good.
DJ will play inside a lot.
And Rome might even move to the slot every once in a while. And I'll be perfectly honest. I like this comment here, but Caleb started to realize a great rapport with Rome towards the end. You go back to that Packers game in Chicago, those key receptions were to Rome Odunze. They were tough catches. The comeback against Washington, those are to Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze and him got a real good rapport. Not only that, he threw to Rome in some pretty big situations during last season. So, and I expect that to increase steadily too.
Rome's a stud.
Rome's a very good-handed receiver, and when I say one's going to be better than the other, when I look at the ability to get the ball in at the line of scrimmage and take it to the house, I don't know that Rome has that ability where Luther Burden does. And
I just don't think he's got that breakaway speed.
Yeah,
I like Rome Odunze a lot, but he's more of a possession receiver than a speed guy.
But remember, guys, the number one receiver in the NCAA at contested catches. That's a deep ball guy. That's a guy that.
Rome's still going to be great here. He's still going to be absolutely great. And then
he's going to catch big touchdowns.
Speaking of competition, breaking news, Bruce, we might have to call Scottish Bear breaking news Scottish Bear, because he says, guys, it came out of LA. The Chargers tried to trade up with the Saints, the first to get ahead of the Bears for Loveland. It was one of the Chargers post-draft shows. Yeah, I heard there was actually 4 or 5 teams that were trying to trade in front of the Chicago Bears to grab Colston and Loveland.
Broncos was one as well.
You guys, we actually had a show on one of our podcasts here in which we talked about what would be our most surprising pick. We went through a whole bunch of different things, your favorite pick, your least favorite pick. And I did end up saying that I think Colston Loveland would be my least favorite pick just because I thought it would be kind of a reach. But yeah, I do understand now. And I like Colston Loveland a lot. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have liked the Bears drafting him. I just thought 10 was a little too high. But yeah, the more you read into this stuff, the more you see why the Bears took him so high, because it seemed like that. Yeah, it seems like that was pretty much the only shot they had at him. And the 500 Mo says the back shoulder catch, the toe tap catch on the sideline towards the end of the Packers game. Yeah, you guys, Rome Odunze is a special player. He's going to be really good here for the Chicago Bears for a long time. Sean, I've said that I think all 3 of these guys, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden, are capable of breaking the Bears' all-time receiving record, which I think is like 5,040 yards, something like that. I think all 3 of these guys could end up breaking that record on the Chicago Bears. But yeah, I mean, you could talk about each one of them as individuals all day, man. But at the end of the day, how hard is it going to be to stop the Bears as an offensive unit? I mean, you guys know that I was pushing offense in the offseason because I wanted Caleb Williams to be comfortable here, and I wanted this transition from Shane Waldron's offense to Ben Johnson's offense to be as seamless as possible. And it seems like that's exactly kind of what the Bears are doing.
Shane Waldron's offense to Thomas Brown's offense to whoever the hell Thomas Brown had running OC. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. And Sean, I will say this in defense to Sean, Luther Burden having potentially the best season as a Bears receiver, especially over Rome Odunze. Ben Johnson did state that the slot receiver always somehow seems to get the ball the most. And I stated previously, Caleb Williams is a big fan of the middle of the field. I think that's where he feels most comfortable. That's probably why he didn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's not throwing outside the numbers too much. He's not attacking those corners. He's keeping the ball inside the numbers. And Luther Burden's probably going to be immediately your best fit at that position.
Yeah, and in comparison, you guys know who had terrible numbers throwing in the middle of the field last year? If you break them down, Jaden Daniels. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
Jaden Daniels.
you guys all know how I feel about one man in this wide receiver room, and that's this guy right here. And I still think he's the number one receiver in Chicago. And I'm gonna say at the end of the day, my
Sean, you
friends,
could have picked like a mean looking goat. You could have picked like
he's a happy looking goat.
That looks like that goat is pathetic.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this. I still think at the end of the season, he's gonna have the most receiving yards on the Bears. Book it. Still DJ Moore, at least for one more year. You may see a turn. Rome might push him, but I think it's going to be DJ.
Sean, can the Chicago Bears be the first team in NFL history with 3,000-yard receivers in one season?
We did a headliner deadline. I asked 2. I don't think there's no way. There's no way.
That's almost impossible. I mean, that would mean Caleb Williams has
way.
like 5,800 yards.
And that would mean that the tight ends weren't very much involved. I think Colston Loveland could have maybe a bigger impact than one of these receivers does this year. And Vizzo Joe, I haven't released it yet.
What if they label Loveland a hybrid?
I tried to release it, Vizzo. I had some infringement, some.
What if the
copyright thing I have
Hurricanes'
to
name
fix.
is Hurricane Ditka?
I have my top 10 fantasy quarterbacks list all drawn up. I tried to release it today, guys. I had some copyright infringement. I don't know what it was. I had a little in the background. I had a clip of Caleb Williams moving. I think they caught.
Stop using Matthew Berry's rankings.
Yeah, but I have Caleb Williams 7th overall in fantasy as a quarterback.
Yeah, the fantasy quarterback play's been pretty disappointing over the last couple of seasons. Like, people drafted CJ Stroud, had their hearts broken last year. We've talked about guys.
I have Caleb ahead of CJ Stroud. I have him ahead of Jared Goff.
But it's somehow it seems like the Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfields are always like the surprise of the fantasy draft. They get drafted
Caleb ahead of Baker.
Baker might be top 5 in fantasy.
I don't know. That's crazy, man. Baker's got an amazing offense.
Baker might be top 5 in fantasy. Man.
Yeah, they have a new offensive coordinator there too. I want to see how that works before I put Baker anywhere in the top 5. I like Liam Cohen.
Put Baker?
I like.
Just curious.
Put him outside the top 10. No, he was 10th.
What?
Outside the top 10?
He was 10th.
Are you insane?
He was the 6th overall quarterback last
year.
year.
Guys, you got Lamar, you got Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. You start to see names drop pretty quickly when you're looking at the name list of quarterbacks.
So last year, Brandon, it went Jackson, Allen, Burrow, Hurts, Daniels, Mayfield.
Yeah, and I think Mahomes is gonna move up this year for sure.
I think Mahomes is going to move up this year, too. These are the most weapons he's had in a very long time, dude. I love Jalen Royals. That was a great pick for them, man. And
they drafted a receiving running back. That's going to be that's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Andy Reid's
I do agree with that 100%.
And I expect CJ Stroud to bounce back, too, guys. He's got a pretty solid receiving core himself over there.
DJ Moore is on the team for, I think, 4 more years, isn't it?
Yeah. We got a 4-year extension when he was already signed for an additional year. Yeah. So DJ Moore is pretty much locked up until he's not going to serve any purpose.
Yeah, he's not going to, he might be looking, let's see. DJ Moore is signed through 2029. Yeah. And he's going to be 33 when he's a free agent. That's going to be rough. He's a Bear for life.
Yep. And I think that's the way Ryan Poles wanted it, which I think we can all agree was a phenomenal decision by Ryan Poles. And guys, when you look back at that contract, after you watch the Amon-Ra's, the CD Lambs, and these guys all get the Jamar Chases get signed, I think DJ Moore could have gotten a little more.
That's a really good question. I think
locking him up before he hit free agency was huge, to be honest.
What do you think of what one chain here says? If Roman Luther hit, do we get rid of
one of them? Is probably the question. No, I don't think. Oh, do we get rid of DJ Moore? I think you want to keep your youth.
He's a big cap hit, man, all the way through his contract. I mean,
one chain. I think I would. I think by the time those guys are owed money, DJ Moore will be 32.
30.
By the time Rome Odunze's owed his contract, by the time Luther Burden's owed his contract.
So in 2027,
I would probably move on from DJ Moore to retain both those players.
Well, the one that's really concerning is Rome Odunze is going to have to get paid the same year as Caleb Williams. That's tough. That's going to be a tough one for the Bears if he's good. If he ends up being really good.
And DJ Moore doesn't fall. He's an $8 million cap hit in 2027, and then $4 million the year after. So he's a $35 million cap hit in 26 and a $60 million in this year. So it's safe to say he's going to probably be here at least 2 more years.
All three of them will. Yeah, you've got this receiving core for some time, which is great, man. I mean, Caleb Williams is going to develop with this receiving core, and you couldn't ask for anything better if you're a rookie quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, even when the Bears
sophomore quarterback,
even when the Bears line up in empty sets, the other side of the ball cannot feel good about what they're looking at.
and that's why I think that the 12-man personnel that Ben Johnson's infamously known for running is going to come down. I mean, because you've got to have these 3 receivers on the field at the same time, right? You have to, Sean. Yeah. You got to run some 11-man here. You're going to want Rome, Luther, and DJ on the field together because that poses a threat that I don't think any other offense besides maybe we talked about it, besides maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think there's any other. The Tampa Bears. I don't know if there's any other offense besides those 2 that provides you this problem because now you have Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. So that's going to be a handful if you're defending that.
And honestly, what's his name? Ricard White is a more than capable receiver. I mean, he does most of his damage as a receiver. He's not a very efficient running back, but he was on my fantasy team last year, dude.
And Sean, you mentioned when we talked about him, you reminded me that they still have Jalen McMillan. So
yeah, they still
that's a team that poses. That's a team that poses a pretty major threat to all defensive backs in the NFL for sure.
Flex 6 says here 12 personnel is going to be a huge benefit to Caleb. I love how Ravens do it with Likely and Andrews. Bigger targets on the field, to see bigger throwing windows because of the play action. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see this Bears offense unleashed and see how all these components that they have.
James says our pass game needs to exploit. Our pass game needs. Why is this not showing? What is going on? Our pass game has to exploit secondaries that are fucking garbage. Yeah, and I think Caleb Williams kind of already proved that that's something he's going to do. Right? We watched him play that Jacksonville team last year. We watched him play the Colts. When Caleb was playing a bad secondary, he picked them to pieces.
That's a perfect segue, and hopefully Kyle will be jumping back in here into weaker secondaries, but our favorite Caleb Williams matchups of the year. Oops, that's the Packers schedule. My bad. There we go.
Well, most importantly, I think we were focused on quarterbacks, right? The opposing.
Yeah, we were. And as we go down this list, I mean, it looks like the top first matchup will be Jaden Daniels in week 6 down in the nation's capital.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big story there week 2 with Ben Johnson facing his former team. But yeah, the real chess match between Caleb Williams and whatever quarterbacks on the other sideline is going to be that Jaden Daniels. Well, I mean, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's now got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. That's going to be an interesting game. But
is that an excuse me, I can't my allergies are killing me, dude.
His allergies, quote unquote, marijuana.
No marijuana, all allergies. I'm actually smoking a lot less because I can't get this. It's just these are just killing my eyes.
You got a lingering respiratory thing, man. That sucks. I've been there, bro. Brutal.
Well, as we go down here, yeah, and I guess Dak, you could put Dak on there. Dak has the capability, but when the Bears can control it, Dak Prescott, like when you start getting down to Daniels and you start getting down to Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in week 8 and week 9. I mean, when we went through these, we didn't have the Bears winning a lot of these. And don't you think that quarterback play, when you start playing these guys like Burrow, Jackson, Daniels, and Washington, and then even when you move down against Jalen Hurts, and I'm not even going to put Jordan Love, because really, when you look at elite quarterbacks, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if I looked at elite quarterbacks on the Bears schedule, I say you got Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. Outside of that, is there someone
I think Jared Goff is on the fence. I mean, he's been in the MVP running for the last 2 seasons. I think that's a guy you still got to concern yourself with. And when the Bears don't have a healthy defense, he is able to pick these guys to pieces, man. So, but I think Dak Prescott's on that in that bubble too. Like I said, you just improved their offense. They got themselves a starting running back in Alfred Blue. They got themselves, the guy across from CeeDee Lamb finally. Which, guys, the thing that scares me about that is it makes CeeDee Lamb much more of a threat when a defense has to concern themselves with the guy who's across the other side of the field. And George Pickens is no slouch either. So, Sean, and then you're talking about secondaries too, guys. It's Sean. I guess the point that you're making is those are the guys that are still able to beat it. Like the Bears secondary is phenomenal, and it's going to be a handful as long as it's healthy. It's going to be a handful for anybody. But yeah, the Joe Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons, the Jaden Daniels, those are the guys, and the Jalen Hurts. Those are guys that are going to be able to beat you up no matter who's playing against the receivers. So,
and that's what I'm saying, Brandon. When you say that, don't you think the Bears defense could control Dak Prescott? I mean, it's not like this guy is elite week in and week out. When you talk about players,
well, I think they can handle a CeeDee Lamb. I think they can handle a George Pickens.
Correct.
But my concern, Sean, about any good quarterback the Bears are going to play is how much time does he have to throw the ball? And this is why I told you guys this is which was my biggest concern going into the draft, because you watched an Eagles team beat a Chiefs team in the Super Bowl by doing something nobody has to Patrick Mahomes, sacking him 6 times and making him brutally uncomfortable. And that's where the Bears might struggle in this upcoming season, is making teams with solid offensive lines, making their quarterbacks uncomfortable, man. Are they going to be able to get to Jalen Hurts with the offensive line he has? Are they going to be able to get to Lamar Jackson, who can move? Jaden Daniels, who also has a pretty sound offensive line. I don't know how many times they sacked Daniels last year, but I don't think it was too many.
I mean, you're kind of answering my question for me.
What's that?
When it comes to elite quarterbacks, you're naming the guys that I think are elite.
Yeah, and the guys that if you can't pressure them are going to just burn you no matter who's in your secondary, man. Joe Burrow, if you don't get pressure on that guy, if he's given time to throw, it doesn't matter how good Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson are. They can't keep up with guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins forever. We know that the receiver has the advantage over the defensive back unless the defensive line is getting pressure on the quarterback. So if Joe Burrow's sitting back there drinking lemonades, he's going to torch you.
Well, you guys, the home and away splits for Dak Prescott are pretty monumental. Pretty monumental, man.
I didn't have Dak on my list, but I'm okay.
Huge.
I'm okay with adding him. Kyle, if you look down this list, so I said looking down this list, I think the Bears play 4 elite quarterbacks this season. Daniels, Jackson, Burrow, and Hurts. Outside of that, I think everyone else is average, and some of these teams, we don't even know who their quarterbacks are yet. But Brandon stepped in and said that, he would add Dak to that last list and home Jared Goff or home and road Jared Goff, Brandon.
I mean, just Jared Goff with protection. If you're not getting pressure on Jared Goff, he's going to burn you. He's going to hurt you, man. That's what Jared Goff's made a career out of.
Sean, who are your 4?
My 4 were Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. Are the 4
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I'd consider Brock Purdy to be an elite quarterback, but their offense as a whole under Kyle Shanahan can be very elite, and he can play like an elite quarterback. And then on top of that, I do expect 100%. You guys, you saw the article or the text I sent you guys this morning. It sounds like Aaron Rodgers is a Steeler to me. It sounds like it's pretty much a done deal already here. I mean, I
don't know how much I fear Aaron Rodgers anymore.
Me either.
I mean, once again, it depends on the system, depends on the team. I mean, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers with Mike Tomlin. I mean, you already have an amazing coach. This is a guy who took one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of
good point.
In terms of
basically, we can get a Hail Mary against the Cowboys knowing that Matt Eberflus is in charge of that.
I mean, you guys, Mike Tomlin, I think Justin Fields had what? In 3 years here, he had what? 9 wins on the Chicago Bears? Under Mike Tomlin, he had 4. I mean, he played for 6 games and he had 4 wins in 6 games. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers is going to look a lot better than he did on the New York Jets, guys. Remember I said that.
Scottish Bear, I do very much. I think Goff will regress under not just losing Ben Johnson, but the guy that they decided to hire as their offensive coordinator would be a concern for me if I'm a Lions fan. John Horton.
Kyle, let me ask you this though. Do you think that almost 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, a healthy Bears defense can't control Aaron Rodgers in a game?
I don't think the question is whether or not they control
in
Aaron
Chicago?
Rodgers. I just think the question is whether or not Mike Tomlin can outcoach a rookie coaching staff. That's the question for me. Like Justin said this in the chat when I was on the show here the other day, and he just confirmed the point I was trying to make. If it comes down to 2 minutes left and the game is tied, guys, I trust Mike Tomlin more than I trust Ben Johnson, and that's nothing against Ben Johnson. I like Ben Johnson a lot. He just has never done it. Yeah, it's just like if it comes down to it, I see a situation of Sean. Would it not be the perfect narrative for Aaron Rodgers to finish his career playing the Bears one last time and beating them in Chicago? You could, as a Bears fan, you couldn't see that happening. We've seen it our entire lives. It wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form if Aaron Rodgers comes in here as Pittsburgh Steeler and beats the Chicago Bears. That wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form because that's just he's broken our hearts so many times. That's just who he is. And it's like I feel like even the Bears themselves, and I know this is a new staff with a new roster, but even the Bears themselves have like this. He has like this subconscious hold over them. Like they're like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. We can't beat him. I mean, they never could. They never could. They never could. And Rocket Dream, I don't know if I've seen him here before. Sorry if he was on the show earlier, guys, but he says, I agree with the comment about the defensive back. There's competition if Stevenson can't make plays.
I think you got to think this too when it comes to the Steelers, man. I thought when they acquired DK Metcalf, I thought what a nightmare to have to defend George Pickens and DK Metcalf. And then Mike Tomlin got rid of his headache and George Pickens. And now I'm wondering, unless Roman Wilson, their 3rd-round pick from last season, becomes a dynamic football player, there's nothing to worry about here. I mean, like if Jalen Johnson locks down DK Metcalf, who the hell else is Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to? Pat Freiermuth?
I wouldn't sell out my boy. Goddamn, his name's slipping my brain. The Memphis Tiger. God damn it,
Calvin Austin.
Yes, thank you, Calvin Austin. I couldn't think of his name. I knew he went to Memphis, but I couldn't think of his damn name. Here, I'll be honest, dude. I like Calvin Austin. He's got a great skill set as a gadget guy who can have explosive plays. He has great hands. He had a good college career. I really like Calvin Austin. I don't know that, I'm not going to say perennial Pro Bowler, but I think he can bring something to an offense. And their running game is still going to be really good there. Caleb Johnson, I've been telling you guys since before the draft, I love this guy. He couldn't fall into a better situation. You already have Mike Tomlin talking this guy up. And don't forget, Jalen Warren's a handful. This guy is a quality, above average NFL running back. He can run between the tackles. He can get outside, and he can catch the ball. This guy is awesome. So there are still some weapons in Pittsburgh.
I mean, would it surprise you guys that if they go all out and sign a guy like Aaron Rodgers to make a 1-year run at a Super Bowl, would it surprise you at all if they could somehow Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin to lure Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper into Pittsburgh? I mean, there's a lot of free agents out there. None of these rosters are set in stone. None of these rosters are set in stone.
Sean, throw that schedule back up, that Bears schedule.
Hey, what's up, Carl? How you doing, bud? Thanks for jumping in, man. Appreciate you.
What's up, Carl? Thanks. I think it's important we ask this question. Which quarterbacks do you think are better than Caleb? So, like,
I think I gave you my 4 currently on the schedule.
You think Jaden Daniels is better than Caleb Williams? I would have to say 3.
I think at this moment going into the season,
Yeah, I mean, Vernon, are you talking about like who the players are going to be ultimately, or are you talking about just based off of last year's statistics?
I think by the time that Caleb plays that Commanders team, we disagree on this, guys. I think Caleb's I think he's one of the most intelligent players the Bears have ever drafted in the history of their existence. I think he's probably the most intelligent player drafted in the last decade in the NFL. I think he's going to have, by week 6, when they play this Commanders team, especially after a bye, immediately after a bye, I think he's going to have this in the bag, man. And I think he's a better I think he's a better passer than Jaden Daniels is. He doesn't present the same threat than Jaden Daniels does.
Well, I certainly think Joe Burrow is better than Caleb Williams, especially at this point in their career.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow are going to win a game. If it's a game of chess, guys, they've got a better player on the other side. But
hey, Brandon, I'll say this. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. I think Jalen Hurts is
he's
good.
When he needs to be.
I think he's on the best team the NFL has seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
A team that's been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years and could be on the verge of maybe a dynasty.
That was the narrative going into the playoffs, though. And when Jalen Hurts needed to make big plays, when Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl didn't get much.
He's not terrible. I'm not
Jalen
saying he's
Hurts
a bum.
torched the Kansas City Chiefs.
You got-
I mean, he
I'm not
destroyed
saying
them.
he's a
I
bum.
think Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff are in very similar situations.
I agree.
If they're on very, very good teams, they're very good quarterbacks in the NFL. If they had to go to a team like the Jets tomorrow, I don't think
But
either of them
Jalen
would
Hurts
very
can
good.
run the ball on
I
you,
don't
man.
think they would look
He
very good.
provides something different than Jared Goff. He's a problem for any defense because there's a lot of times where Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's how many games? I had him as a fantasy quarterback, and I shit you not. There was games where the guy had 35 points and he threw 100 yards and an interception because he rushed for 3 touchdowns. I mean, this guy poses a problem no matter what. If he's not throwing the ball well, he's going to run it down your throat. And then, like I said, guys, when Saquon Barkley, who carried this offense, so Jalen Hurts didn't have to,
Did.
when Saquon Barkley was held in check, Jalen Hurts made the throws that he needed to make, and Devontae Smith and AJ Brown were the beneficiaries of this,
So
and the
you're
Kansas City
right.
Chiefs were
He's a
shocked.
really good system quarterback. He's a really good system quarterback. He threw for 2,900 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 picks. He didn't have to throw a lot last year. He just
No, he didn't. But that's my point. When he did, nobody thought he could, and when he had to, he destroyed the opposing defense.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because for me personally, and you can tell me if you disagree, but I think there's two types of quarterbacks in football, and I think we've been watching it for the last 30 years since we were born. There's 2 types of quarterbacks in football. Well, I mean, there's more than that, but ultimately, when it comes down to good quarterbacks in football, there are players who are, like Sean said, you can call them system quarterbacks if you want, and they play in really good teams with really good talent around them. And then there are and really good talent makes them better. And then there are quarterbacks who are teams that aren't littered with talent, like Patrick Mahomes. That's not like he has 5 all-star receivers, but he makes everybody around him better. So how many quarterbacks on that list right there are quarterbacks that make everybody around them better?
Cool. There's not a lot of them. There's
Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I'd say that's it. For me personally, that's
Jaden Daniels made a pretty lackluster roster.
Yeah, but I mean, it was one season. That's too much small of a sample size to just automatically assume that Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the best quarterbacks.
Look at CJ Stroud. You know,
look at
here.
RG3 was amazing his rookie season, dude. He was must see TV.
RG3 might have been a really good football player.
CJ Stroud his rookie year, when he had everything perfect, no line troubles, he had a nice pocket, he looked really, really well. When things broke down for him last year, he did not look so well. He looked like a rookie quarterback who was inconsistent, sailed balls, threw picks, had bad turnovers that cost his team games. So the league adjusted to him as his team declined. These things can happen to Jaden Daniels and test him. So I agree with Kyle in the aspect of small sample size. You need a couple of more consistent years together. That's the same thing I'm saying with, as another example, PCA from the Cubs. I love what he's doing right now, but can he do it consistently? He did it in 2025. Can he do it in 2026 before I offer him big money?
And the same question exists for Caleb Williams.
100%.
Yeah, but at least we have more experience. We know more about Caleb Williams than we do Jaden Daniels. I mean, listen, we're Bears fans. All we do is study Caleb Williams. But Jaden Daniels, for me personally, is he caught the NFL by storm, guys. The NFL was like, this kid is way too poised for his rookie. How is this kid? He looks like he's been playing the NFL for 10 years. Now you got to give the NFL the chance to adjust and catch up to him. And that could change drastically. Or what's up, Dustin? Or Jaden Daniels is exactly who he was last year, and he ends up being one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. I don't know.
Dustin, we're talking about the Bears' schedule and which quarterbacks are better than Caleb Williams. Which opposing quarterbacks are better than Caleb
right now
on this schedule.
On the schedule, yeah.
Interesting. What's up, guys? I missed you guys a lot.
We had some love in the chat, man. People asking, wondering, we're hoping that you're okay.
Everything's been so crazy. Thanks, Dante. Thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, man, I missed everybody. I'm happy to be back. This should be back like starting now. I mean, it's still gonna be crazy, but it's been a lot, man. But you guys have been killing it. You guys have been really holding it down really well. Sean, thanks for jumping in on the bare minimum, man, and doing such a great job. You guys are doing awesome. What's up, Bears fan for life? That's Phil.
Oh yeah,
Phil.
So Dustin, let's get your take of the quarterbacks that Caleb Williams will face this season.
Sean, you want to throw the schedule?
Let's take scenarios out of this. Let's take rosters out of this. Just A versus B. Which of these guys is Caleb Williams, even now as a sophomore, better than today? Do you think?
Oh, better than, or which ones is he not? I mean, you can't You can't make a case for him to be better. You can't make a case for him to be better than Lamar Jackson. You can't make a case against Joe Burrow. I'd have a tough time making a case against Jalen Hurts now, to be honest.
That's what I said.
Just won a Super Bowl. I mean, Brock Purdy just got paid, but I mean, that's kind of a coin flip. Jordan Love, kind of a coin flip, depending on the game. Jaden Daniels, right now, you got to say he's better than Caleb.
That's the one we were stuck on.
Well, for what they've put on film and what they've put on paper so far, Jaden Daniels is the better quarterback right now, correct?
That's kind of what I said.
Yeah,
that's just the fact of the matter. Does that mean that Caleb Williams won't become better than him this year? No. And I mean, you could project that out, but if we're talking about right now, as Kyle said, Jaden Daniels has the upper hand over Caleb Williams, guys.
Yeah,
and you can make a case for Dak Prescott too, man. I know a lot of people don't like Dak.
I did.
But he's
He's
a much better quarterback than he gets credit for.
I still think.
And Sean or Dustin, they just made CeeDee Lamb a whole lot better by putting George Pickens on the other side of him. So
hell yeah.
That
and it looks like they added Jaden Blue. It looks like they added a running back that can actually help their run game too, which is going to be huge for them.
Dustin, I only had 4, and that was Daniels, Jackson, Burrow, and Jalen Hurts. I do, and
what about Tyler Shuck, Sean? What about Tyler Shuck?
We didn't even mention that game.
What about that Saints quarterback room? That formidable Saints quarterback.
Yeah. Geno Smith? Anybody? Any Geno Smith takers?
No, I mean, listen. I mean, if you're talking about for one game right now, Geno Smith has shown that he can be a wily veteran that can bring his team back in games and keep his team in games. But I would have a hard time taking him over Caleb Williams, Sean.
All right, Dustin. What about this one? This is one we. What about Jared Goff?
Not for me. No, I've never been the biggest fan of Jared Goff, to be honest. I mean, and if you think about the changes that he's going to go through, everyone keeps talking about the changes Caleb's going through with this offense. At least Caleb only had 1 year in that offense. I mean, I would imagine they're going to try to hold on to a lot of the same principles that Jared Goff was successful with Ben Johnson. But Ben Johnson's gone, guys. Jared Goff could see some regression.
I think he absolutely will. And I don't like the guy that's taken Ben Johnson's job. I don't know too much about him, but he was a play caller in 2017 for the Cardinals, and they went 3-13.
Well, Brennan, let me ask you.
He doesn't have a good track record.
Brennan, you said you did your top 10 fantasy quarterbacks. How many of the guys on that list right there were rated above Caleb Williams?
I have Caleb Williams seventh in fantasy.
But some of those guys aren't on this list, right? Patrick Mahomes is probably rated before Caleb Williams in fantasy.
Yeah,
who on this list is ranked before Caleb?
Jaden Daniels,
1.
Joe Burrow,
2.
Dak Prescott,
above Caleb Williams in fantasy.
Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts are all. Dak Prescott is above Caleb Williams in fantasy for me. Yes.
And then Jordan Love is a toss-up right now, man. If you're talking about what Jordan Love has done up to this point versus, I mean, and Flex is saying it right here, guys. It's hard to rate Caleb right now amongst the best. We're hoping that he improves. It's all projection and really speculation with Caleb. And you've taken that offensive mastermind and paired him with your young quarterback who dealt with a lot of turmoil last year and still handled himself very well, all things considered. You know, so you expect him to be better this year, right, Sean? Kyle, like you just expect that, but at the same time, that's just speculation. We have not seen it done with these other guys on that schedule. You've seen them do it for years. Even Brock Purdy, guys. But you've
also seen a lot of
Brock Purdy's gone deep in the playoffs multiple times, guys.
You've seen inconsistency from Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. So, like I said, you weren't on here yet.
You've seen more consistency from them.
For me, there's there's two different types of quarterbacks when it comes to you're talking about good quarterbacks in the NFL. I think there's guys that have to be surrounded by really good situations, really good coaching to be really good enough to at least be good enough to win a Super Bowl, and everybody around them makes them better. And I believe there are guys like Patrick Mahomes that doesn't need everything to be perfect all the time, and he just makes the team better because he's absolutely special and a generational talent. How many of the guys on that list are generational? For me personally, guys, 2. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
that's
if you're talking long term, Kyle, Caleb Williams only has 2 people in front of him on that list, probably. Yeah.
And maybe Jane Daniels. Maybe Jane Daniels. I don't know.
I was even thinking about
Jalen Hurts is a special quarterback, man.
Jalen Hurts is very good, but he's not a quarterback.
It's not generational.
In the truest sense. Yeah, no, if you're talking about projecting out for their careers, if I'm taking Caleb Williams over everybody except for Jaden Daniels, probably, guys. I mean, if you're talking that, but if you're talking about right now, this year, Brock Purdy has a better resume. Dak Prescott
is definitely better.
Yeah, obviously those guys go. It goes without saying. So I mean, it's really about what you think Caleb is going to turn into, and how soon is he going to do it? Is he going to outduel these guys this season? Because I feel like that's more of the question, right? Because that means the Bears are winning football games.
That's what we were looking at. Is
if you're talking about first ballot Hall of Famers, I think the only four guys in that name were even in that conversation would be
only two.
Well, I mean,
Lamar
I'm saying
Jackson.
if you're talking about projecting the future of their careers, I'm saying the only four guys who would be even involved in that conversation, because we know Goff's not, we know Prescott's not, we know Purdy's not.
We know Lamar Jackson is a Hall of Famer.
But if you're talking about first ballot Hall of Famer, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and then Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Maybe. Nobody knows, but those two for sure are probably going to be first ball hand favorites. Like, right? There's no doubt about it. Right?
To answer Carl's question here, my only fear with JJ McCarthy is that he gets injured and they have to put someone else in. That's my only fear with JJ McCarthy, Carl.
I'm still predicting.
I hope that he's playing both times against the Bears, because he's going to make mistakes.
I'm still predicting Sam Howell.
Yeah, I don't want Sam Howell in there. I'd prefer JJ McCarthy in there, man.
I think it's going to be Sam Howell, but we'll see.
I don't want to
be honest with you guys.
That guy's a gunslinger.
I'd be fine with either one. I mean,
I'd be fine with either one too.
Oh, Kelvin Porter.
Yeah, Sam Howell likes to throw the ball to the other football team a lot. That's Sam Howell's.
Yeah, Kelvin. It sounds like the Chicago Bears are going to be in Arlington Heights. From all things, everything I'm hearing, it sounds like the Bears are going to be playing Arlington Heights. And you guys, I don't know if you saw the new article that just came out. That I think it's what's the name? What's one of the towns right next to Arlington? I think it's like Rolling Meadows or something.
Rolling Meadows.
Like that. Yeah, and they came out. We're like, yeah, we started doing our traffic research and all that. So these people have been talking. Like they expect the Chicago Bears to be.
I'll tell you this, Kyle.
They need to be doing their traffic research. They're going to be doing a lot of work.
They needed the support of Arlington Heights and Rolling Meadows, and Rolling Meadows and Arlington Heights have both pledged their support to the Chicago Bears to work with them.
Yeah, 100%.
Those are the border.
They want them there. They both the new mayors.
I'm glad you popped in for this, because this was a topic that I love discussing on tonight's episode, and I think the chat did as well. Do the Bears have alignment now? Are we worried about
it seems that way.
Not my guy? I'm going to fire him because he wasn't my guy. I didn't pick him. Is that done? There's the narrative that somebody can scapegoat themselves into one more year by saying that's not my guy. Is that gone? Are the Bears? Is it linear here?
I think it's out the door with Kevin Warren, man. I think Kevin Warren kind of sets that tone, and he's going to hold Ryan Poles accountable. And I don't think that them firing a coach in the middle of the season for the first time in 80 years or whatever it was.
Years, yeah.
100 years. There you go. Even better. Yeah. I don't think that was a signal that they want to continue with the status quo. That was obviously a signal that things are changing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that pairing Poles with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, the Bears are looking at their potential, their next like dynasty type push towards, that Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Veach type of thing. They're looking for that type of, alignment going forward. And you can't look at it and say it's a bad idea or that the parts don't look good. All the parts separate look really good. You got to see them working together, Brandon. So, but it looks like they have this thing in their mind that's how they want to approach it.
Do you think it's succeed or fail as one unit? Like, do you think they all fail together if they fail? Or
this will be cleared out.
Yeah.
Well, no, Ben Johnson, I think. Listen, if the Bears have 2 years in a row, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think if the Bears have this year and another year that don't go well, Poles could be gone and Ben Johnson could still be here.
That's what I think. I think Poles would be the guy who's.
I don't know.
I don't think Ben Johnson was hired and given the amount of money he was given, to be out of here in 2 years.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. Because even if you don't believe that Ben Johnson is the problem and Ryan Poles is considered the scapegoat in that situation and was fired, keeping Ben Johnson here, you're once again doing it. So then you'd be like, all right, so now we're going to hire a GM and he doesn't get to pick his coach. It's got to be Ben Johnson. Like he doesn't.
Yeah, that's been the problem with the Bears for years, man. Here's tough. Here's what you have to consider in that situation, though: is Caleb Williams setting the world on fire, and is that due to Ben Johnson? Because if Caleb Williams is, Ben Johnson will be the reason for that, and that will be the engine that makes all these decisions for the Bears guys.
I think a lot of variables would determine the answer to that question, Brian. I think a lot of things, if everything looks
I think
great,
the main one is Caleb Williams and his success.
Yeah, and if everything great on the field, but we continue to cut third-round picks after year 2, then yeah, I think Ryan Poles will probably end up being the scapegoat. But if the Bears just suck on the field and they're not scoring points and they're not improving and they're 4-4, then yeah, I think they're all.
Scapegoat's a weird word to use there, Kyle, because Ryan Poles has had plenty of opportunities to add to this roster and get it better. And if we're talking 2 years down the line on top of it,
well,
and if they're not winning it,
Dustin, anybody
speaking for itself.
Dustin, anybody who's ever worked for the Bears is a scapegoat because George McCaskey selling the team would immediately make them better. He is the problem. He has been the problem for the last.
But Kyle,
But look at what George McCaskey has signed off on in the last half a year, Kyle. Look at what George McCaskey has signed off on in the last half a year. Firing a coach middle of the season, right?
Yeah, that's fine. But
you're
talking
out
about
and spending whatever you need to spend to get the hot shot head coaching candidate that everybody wants.
That's why we're saying that we feel like the culture is changing. But
putting it in Ryan Poles' hands, not putting his hands in it. That's different than what McCaskey has done in the past.
I got hold on real quick.
You're talking about a half year as opposed to 40 years. I mean,
real quick, guys.
Talk about small sample size.
Scottish Bears says something here I have to address. If Poles fails, I think Warren will allow Ben Johnson to bring in his own GM. I'm going to stop reading that right there. I have to say this to you, Scottish. If Poles fails and he's terminated, Kevin Warren will hire the GM that he wants in place for this football team. He's not going to let Ben Johnson do anything.
100%.
Ben Johnson's not going to be, and that's again we're talking about the Bears do everything backwards. That's not the way this is supposed to work. Kevin Warren's supposed to hire the general manager.
The head coach is not supposed to hire the GM. The GM isn't supposed to hire the president. Like those things, it's not supposed to work that way, you know.
But I mean,
honestly, all the aspects.
If Ben Johnson fails, Kyle. If Ben Johnson were to fail, if that's your problem, Ben Johnson, then Ryan Poles is a problem anyways.
Well, they're both fired.
Coaches.
They're both fired.
That's two coaches that didn't work. So it's time he goes anyway.
And if Ben Johnson fails, then you guys, no disrespect at all, but Caleb Williams is probably not the guy.
No, he's probably not. He's probably a part of that process.
So everything we're talking about, in my mind, hinges on Caleb Williams, guys.
Yeah, yes, really agree, 100%. And
this Kyle's right in saying it is aligned because
it has to be aligned.
Fails,
if it's not, exactly. If it's not aligned, that means that everything went wrong. And everything went wrong. Caleb Williams isn't the guy. It's just Caleb Williams is 100%. He is about to carry the Chicago Bears on his shoulders. He is now the last piece, the last question remaining. Is Caleb Williams good enough to dominate the NFL and win Super Bowls? There's only one way to find out.
And Caleb Williams can make Ryan Poles look really smart, and he can make Ben Johnson look really smart too. I think it just boils down to that, Kyle. Like I said, if the team is not successful, but Ben Johnson has Caleb Williams playing at a Pro Bowl level, Ben Johnson ain't going nowhere. He just won't. So I mean,
but if Caleb Williams is playing at Pro Bowl level, that would probably transition to success, and I don't think Ryan Poles will be getting fired either. Hopefully hopefully everybody's doing well, and we win multiple Super Bowls with everybody that's here now because these guys should be together for the next 3 or 4 years. The Bears firing people year in year out has never done them any favors at all. Like, hey, let's get an offense coordinator every single year. Like, dude, sometimes eventually you just got to give guys time to like be cohesive. It's like when we saw that Padres built team in baseball a couple years ago. They had Soto and Tatis and all that, and they just gave up on it after 1 year. If you guys would have just kept that team together, they would have won a championship. Like sometimes these guys just have to get to know each other.
Let's get back.
You look around the NFL though, Brandon. That's a good question because the best teams have that quarterback, that coach, that GM. You look at the Bills, you look at the Chiefs, you look at the Eagles, and the Bears are putting all their eggs in the basket that they have those 3 guys lined up in the right way, and we got to just hope that succeeds. If it doesn't, honestly, this will be the biggest shot the Bears have taken and the best that they've taken to get those things lined up. And if it doesn't work, I'll be shocked as a Bears fan because I've not seen this amount of talent at all 3 of those positions: the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback.
And they all have the same direction. They all want to move in the same direction, which is very uncommon for this Bears organization. What do you guys make of? Carl says, I'm sick and tired. Sean, what do you make of this? I'm sick and tired of the Kevin Warren glaze. What is that referring to?
I don't know, man, because I just said earlier, man, I think Kevin Warren, we were a little hard on him to begin with. But
I think he might mean gaze, that look on his face that you see in the background.
Oh, that's the angry look. That's a serious business look.
I couldn't find a picture where he didn't look like that, and I'm fucking serious.
maybe that's exactly what he means.
No,
I think Kyle's right. Guys. I'm gonna have to side with Kyle on that one.
Yeah.
Kevin Warren.
He says no. I meant Carl, are you
No, he
referring
said, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
to the fans and
the
impact?
Blaze, I know what he means, guys. Like everybody's super happy about Kevin Warren giving him.
I wasn't originally super happy about
Never
Kevin
heard
Warren, but
Clay.
you know what? I think he's done a great job, man.
I think we're aging ourselves right now.
Yeah, I mean the glory. That's what I would. But yeah, I'm not sick of it at all. I hope he continues to be successful and we continue to worship and praise what he's doing here. I mean, I'm a Chicago Bears fan.
Well, Sean made a good point.
I want them to win a
earlier
Super Bowl, and
that-
I want all this to go right. And Kevin Warren to be great, Ryan Poles to be great, Ben Johnson to be great, and Caleb Williams to be great. And if that happens, this team's going to win multiple championships. And for a Bears fan to even say that, so especially one who was born in '88 and has never seen a Super Bowl. It's out otherworldly. It really is. I don't even know how to describe it. It's crazy because I do honestly believe that, Dustin, you're 100% correct. Ultimately, if this Bears team can be a dynasty or whatever you want to consider them, it falls on the Caleb.
Consistently competitive at the very least.
And it's got to be Caleb Williams. It's got to be Caleb Williams. And that's why I was preaching all offseason. Like, guys, do everything you can and then more for Caleb Williams, as much as you possibly can. And let's, instead of telling us, hey, we have a franchise quarterback, let's see 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. Let's see that. And then I know for a fact that they did everything right, for sure.
And here's the question, guys. Sean, you tell me, is this the best lineup of GM, coach, quarterback that you've seen as a Bears fan in your time watching? I mean, even when it was the Super Bowl era, and I wasn't around for that. I was born shortly after that. But like Ditka, I don't even remember who the GM was. You probably got that information, Sean. And then McMahon as the quarterback. Like, I think that this is something it has the potential to be much better than that.
Yeah.
I think it's the best that I've seen. Anybody got any thoughts?
I mean,
Sean, go ahead. Sean was here for that.
Yeah, Sean watched that.
Jerry Venisi, I was just
Jerry
Venisi.
That's
Bears fan for life. Yeah. You know, I mean, he won a Super Bowl here. So if these guys can get it aligned and win a Super Bowl here, then my answer will change. But he's the only one that's actually made it happen.
I'm talking about that quarterback with the skill set, though, and that head coach with the skill set, and that GM obviously did really good, and that head coach did really good.
If that's what you're talking about, sure. But I think that Buddy Ryan, Mike Ditka, these guys all had their own special alignment and they made it work. It's just a lot different. It's a lot different now than it was then. That's all I can say.
For sure. Well, I mean, Jerry Angelo and
together
Smith and Rex Grossman. Like, we've seen
Sean,
Jay Cutler and
they probably are better. This is probably a better look.
Oh, God, Rex Grossman.
Because I don't even know what Vanessa. I don't know how you say his name, but
am I talking out of my ass saying this is the best combination of those three?
No, not at all. This is the most excited I've been for as a Chicago Bears fan.
Because Vanessa put the best defense together.
1985 offensive coordinator who nobody knows who his name is, but no, they have to put together a winning season.
I mean, but let me ask you a question real quick, Sean, but just before you answer the question, and Dustin, not to but for me personally, just with the way football's changed, I would say if you're talking about Venisi and Mike Ditka, I wouldn't even say Jim Man. I'd say Venisi, Mike Ditka, and Walter Payton, because ultimately he was the most player on the team who won the Super Bowl. The game's different now, right? The game's different. So now when you make now it's that marriage has to include the quarterback. But back in the day, I think you just need.
It didn't always have to. You're right, Kyle. Yes, that's a good point. That is a good point because that defense carried that team, and Walter Payton carried that team. Very, very different.
Ditka and McMahon weren't the biggest fans of each other either back then. So. They did their own things. It's a different era. It's a quarterback-driven league. They're the divas of the NFL now, and they're the ones who get it done. Back in the day, you can win with a rushing offense. Can't do that anymore. I mean, I guess you can because
you can.
It's transitioned back to Jerry. I think the Eagles haven't
to the greatness of Jalen Hurts that everyone wants to say.
No, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley won that Super Bowl. They had 7 rushing touchdowns in the NFC Championship game.
Wait a minute, wasn't that? I thought that was on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts.
Not for me.
Well, the Super Bowl itself, Saquon Barkley was kind of flattened in that Super Bowl.
No, I just think Jalen Hurts is, like you said earlier, Sean, he's part of a really good system. He's part of a really good system, but I think ultimately the difference maker was Saquon Barkley. I think that's why they went out and beat the shit out of the Chiefs this year instead of like two years ago when they were Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. I think Saquon Barkley was the missing piece because it's ultimately the same roster.
Who was the Super Bowl MVP?
Richard Dent.
No, for the Eagles.
Oh.
was a defensive player, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it was Jalen Hurts.
Was it Jalen Hurts?
It was Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts should have been the Super Bowl MVP, and the Super Bowl he lost, to be honest, too. So I listen, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts the best part of this Eagles team and could do it without Saquon Barkley, but when he needs to be a quarterback, he kind of fucking does. Dude.
Here, I'll say
but you guys, Saquon Barkley broke an NFL record. I mean, he had
3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns and 300 total yards.
With another quarterback on that team, and you can probably name a few other than Jalen Hurts, the Eagles probably still win the Super Bowl last year.
So, no, but Hurts' skill set lends itself to that offense, man. Like the push, the ability
for
to
72 yards.
run past.
Yeah, because they built the offense around Jalen Hurts.
Quarterback. He's
100%. But so if you throw in Kenny Pickett last year, you're not as good as you are.
No, but Lamar Jackson
wins
the Super Bowl.
Lamar Jackson is
no doubt about
is the one guy that you could say for sure. But if you throw Justin Fields on that Eagles team, they do not win a fucking Super Bowl, guys.
No. But Jalen Hurts was 17 of 22.
No, Brock Purdy does not work in that offense.
He had a 77% completion percentage in that game. 77. That's a high completion percentage in a Super Bowl. And he had 2 passing touchdowns on top of 1 rushing and almost 100 yards rushing.
Brandon, you tell me.
He was the best player on the field on that game. That game.
What's more important? Yeah, but you're talking about. I mean, it's unfortunately for quarterbacks, the position group is one player, but the defensive line probably won the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Patrick Mahomes
and
threw
Cooper
like 3 interceptions.
Cooper DeJean returned a touchdown. I mean, that was.
When the opposing quarterback throws 3 interceptions because he's constantly berated. Yeah, and one of them turns into a pick 6. Yeah, they get the Eagles, and then the Eagles are in what? They're getting the ball at the 30-yard line, and Jalen Hurts has to throw a 30-yard pass.
Listen, but why I'm saying this too, guys, is because I kind of fed into the narrative that was, in that if Saquon Barkley can't continue to run the ball down people's throats, this Eagles team won't win football games.
Saquon Barkley's getting the record.
Jalen Hurts proved me the fuck wrong. He proved me wrong.
The Chiefs told Jalen Hurts to beat them, and he did.
I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback in the NFL. I
agree. I agree with you, Sean.
I don't care.
If he goes to a 3rd Super Bowl, is he elite?
No.
If he's not, you can put a lot of other quarterbacks on this Eagles fucking team, and they can win the fucking.
Vernon, Eli Manning won 2.
Yeah, Eli Manning. Trent Dilfer's a Super Bowl champion.
Won 2 Super Bowls.
So is Brad Johnson. Give me a break.
Manning could barely tie his shoes.
Yeah, those are a little different though. They didn't win MVPs for their team in the Super Bowl.
Because they won on defense. Because they won on defense.
That's why it's different. That's exactly why it's different.
But I mean, you guys, when you talk about you go talk about those Giants teams. Tell me what position group was the best in the NFL. When you talk about the Eagles, the offensive line's is top 3 in the NFL. Defensive line's top 3 in the NFL. The secondary is top 5 in the NFL. The wide receiving core is top 3 in the NFL.
That Giants defensive line was the best.
The running back is the best in the NFL. I mean, the Eagles have the best roster in the NFL. The Giants did not. They did not. They did not have the best roster in football. I mean, there was guys making.
Carl says he doesn't think
like
that
David
the
Tyree
Raiders go to the playoffs with Jalen Hurts instead of Geno Smith. I mean, that's a fair question. That Raiders team is not as.
I agree.
As this Eagles team. That's a fair way to look at it.
I said that earlier.
They would be better with Jalen Hurts than Geno Smith, though.
I said that earlier. I said if you put Jalen Hurts on the Jets, they're not going to the playoffs.
Do you know how many total touchdowns Jalen Hurts?
Patrick Mahomes could do that on the Jets. He could. I think he could do that on the Jets. I think Patrick Mahomes could win a Super Bowl.
What do you have, like 42?
He had 18 passing touchdowns. I know that.
He had 14 rushing touchdowns.
And 8. Yeah, great. Give him the ball on the 1-yard line 14 freaking times. That doesn't make him special, dude.
I don't think he gets respect, man. I don't think he gets enough respect. I really don't.
Dude, you put him on the goal line 14 times with a play that's been perfected with perfect leverage behind one of the best offensive lines in football, and he has 14 touchdowns, dude.
Do you know how many rushing touchdowns? Do you know how many rushing touchdowns Saquon Barkley had?
Why are we talking so much about Jalen Hurts?
Because the argument now is Jalen Hurts an elite quarterback. Yeah, and then Saquon Barkley has 13. Saquon Barkley has 13.
Caleb Williams will be a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, guys. Caleb Williams will be a better quarterback.
That's exactly what I said, Dustin, an hour freaking ago.
Today he is not. Today he is not. But this year he has a chance.
Well, you guys,
he's definitely a better thrower of the football. He's definitely a better thrower of.
We got a new name in the chat here, so let's just address the chat real quick.
Yeah.
Jason Toy, thank you so much
Jason
for
Toy was
joining
here
us.
Thursday. What's up,
sorry.
Jason?
Welcome
Thanks
Sorry,
for
I
coming
didn't
back,
see
brother.
Thursday's show, Jason. So thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming back. And then Jediah Harper's here. Broski Bear's now here. Daniel Jeffries is here. We saw Flex Diggs in the house. Scottish Bear, Bears fan for life. Phil, obviously. Laz, Breaking News, Bruce. I mean, everybody.
Chad is killing
TB17.
it today, guys.
I mean, you guys are on
Chad's
fire. Obviously, Erica was here earlier.
Thanks, Jedediah.
Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't
always count
already.
on Jed, Brandon.
Yeah.
Always count on Jed.
Anybody watching on Twitter right now, we have almost 60 in the building. Please go over to our YouTube channel and hit that like and subscribe button when you get a chance. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Anything else you guys want to talk about, man? Sean?
One Chain says this is awesome.
I've never seen One Chain's name in here before.
No, we gave him an applause today. We appreciate
Yeah.
you.
One-
And he's
dude,
killing it. He's
Yeah,
also killing it in
one
this chat.
chain's been great in the chat today, man.
Oh, Dante's
Dante
addressing
just
Dustin.
asked a question to me. Dante asked me a
Let's
question.
hear it.
Who do you want to start at left tackle in week 1? That is a fucking hard question, isn't it,
Should
guys?
be
That's a hard
Trapilo.
question.
It should be Trapilo because if he's starting week 1, that means he's starting caliber tackle.
really
in the
tough
NFL.
question.
You need to trust Ben
You
Johnson.
want your pillow to be that guy if he is that guy. You don't want him to be there
Yeah.
if he's not ready. That's
I mean, dude, did you
want a better option?
Did you want Braxton Jones starting his first year as a 5th round pick?
I wanted Braxton Jones on this team.
Yeah,
since he was
exactly.
drafted.
Exactly. So
listen, he's
maybe
performed well.
maybe Trapilo's better.
You hope that he is, and he better be. But when you're a team that drafts the left tackle in the 5th round, and then you turn around and you draft the left tackle in the 3rd round, then you turn around and draft the left tackle in the 2nd round, it leaves this question wide open, Kyle. We were talking about this going into. Yeah,
When it means you're
they
moving
get it
on
right.
from Braxton
But
Jones.
a lot of
That's
these
what it
teams, to
means.
get it right, they need to spend high draft capital on a left tackle. Do I want to see if Trapilo has it? Yes, but I also want to see if Karan has it because they just spent a 3rd round pick on him. So I mean, I want the best guy, the guy who impresses the coaches the most in training camp and in preseason. I want that guy to be the starter. I don't really have I just want the best player. The best thing about this Bears team going into this season to me, and I keep saying it, is the level of competition that you will see at every position besides quarterback.
I'll
These
say
guys are
this,
going to earn their spot.
Dante,
Huh?
I'll say this. If I had to give somebody a nod without knowing which guy Ben Johnson thinks is the best when the season starts, Trapilo has no injury history, and Karan and Braxton can't seem to shake whatever it is the hell they're dealing with in regards to health. So I would love for a
Trapilo
guy
has no
who's
history of
sound.
starting at left tackle, man.
No, I know, but I want a guy. If you're talking about a guy who's sound, who's not going to have to be replaced by somebody anyways, Trapilo is probably the option because Karan Avagaji re-injured the injury he had in college, and Braxton Jones just exploded an ankle. So those two things concern the hell out of me when it comes to will Braxton and Jones and Karan Avagaji end up getting replaced anyways? That's the question I think I would have if I'm the head coach approaching.
There's so many question marks at the offensive line. This is why Sean and I were talking about this in the podcast.
There's not so many. There's not so many.
Well, there is because first of all, I mean, Sean or Dustin, do you really want to be asking yourself this question? Who do you want to start left tackle week 1 on your team that you think could win a Super Bowl? Maybe if Caleb Williams is made. No, that's not good.
I think the best way to ask that real quick, Kyle, let me say this. I think the best way to ask that question is who do you think will keep Caleb Williams upright the most? Who has the best opportunity?
Yeah, which is concerning that we have to ask that question.
Sean doesn't love any of them.
I don't either. And that is a problem. But if you're looking at left guard and Joe Tooney, you're looking at center and Dahlman, you're looking at right guard and Jonah Jackson. These are all major upgrades. And you look at your right tackle where you have a guy that will continue to turn into a stud in the NFL.
Dude, there's more question marks.
Not a lot of question marks. It's
if
one really big question mark.
No, there's a lot of question marks. If Jonah Jackson isn't good,
might be the best option to keep Caleb upright this season.
There's a ton of question marks. There's a ton of things the Bears have at their disposal. If Jonah Jackson isn't good, would it be out of the realm of possibility the Chicago Bears like, Karan Avagaji, maybe you're not the best left tackle in football, but you know what you could be? A really goddamn good right guard. Like there's so many things the Bears have at their disposal right now that I think the only thing that's not on the table with Chicago Bears. What's the only thing that's not on the Chicago Bears when it comes to but their depth is absolutely pathetic. And the only thing that's a big huge question mark for the Chicago Bears, or it's a certainty for the Chicago Bears, I should say, is at the end of the season, they are not paying Braxton Jones. That I know for a fact. Braxton Jones is not going to be the Bears left tackle next year.
No, he is not.
For a fact.
He is not. Do you want Trapilo learning on the job with his main job being keep Caleb Williams' head on his shoulders? I don't know that I want.
You might not have an option. Yeah.
You might not have an option. Listen, if Karan Amagaji, after a year in the NFL and a full offseason, hopefully where he can get healthy, can make some moves, I would love to see him take that job and not give it back. The Bears drafted him for a reason, guys. And as Scott has pointed out, he was expected to be a higher pick than he was, if not.
Sean said that on Thursday. Sean was talking about how his projection fell once.
And everything you guys just said, you could say about Trapilo. I mean, this guy is projected to be a starter in the NFL. It says on Draft Bus, ultimately will be above average starter in the NFL. Like, so he was projected to start and to be above average starter. So both those guys should be good options, but it ultimately comes down to whether or not Ryan Poles is good at drafting offensive linemen, because he hasn't been good so far. And if both these guys fail, I would never let him draft an offensive lineman ever again.
Well, then you don't want him to be your GM. If both guys fail, he's not your GM anymore, is what you're saying.
I mean, at some point, the left tackle has to be considered incredibly important. That's all. I'm saying.
High priority for your team.
Yes, and I don't think it has been. Sorry, Sean.
All right, Sean, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you guys know how I feel about Jonah Jackson. I just don't. I see that as a slight upgrade, but not an incredible upgrade. He has to get out there and prove that he's missing.
Well, you see it as a question mark, right?
He's a big question mark, dude. That's why I'm saying there are question marks. You don't have a left tackle. Your left tackle is probably your most premier position on your line. We're just sitting here discussing between three guys that none of us know about. Jonah Jackson is what he is. He's a B at best.
Yeah, look at the depth chart. Look at
Chicago's finest. New to the chat. Has anybody seen Chicago's finest? I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I had not seen that before either. No.
Thank Chicago's finest. Thank you for joining this Halas Hall Hangover on a holiday. We appreciate your time and attention. That's for you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
And we keep talking about it. It's the player development. It's this coaching staff that the Bears have brought in here that should help these. Yep, and this team get better. These guys develop individually, which will make them better as a whole. So you just hope that the best guy wins that battle. And the Bears have a very good plan for that to start the season, and they have a really good plan in place as a backup plan. Now, if you're talking about Braxton Jones, Trapilo, and Karan Amagaji as your options, at least you now have options, whereas last year you did not. It was just Braxton Jones, guys.
Are they good options?
Obviously a better scenario this year. No, Amagaji was not an option last year. You're the main one who said that, Sean. He was injured. When he was drafted, he was injured all training camp. He was not.
He said, are they good options?
But are they good?
Are they better options? I think so. Yes, 100%. What was behind Braxton Jones last year? An injured Karan Amagaji, and who's the other guy who's not on this team no more? Who's the other guy? Why am I blanking on his name, guys? Help me out here.
Larry Borum.
Yes. Who was the worst? So yes, the options are clearly better this year, but it also comes down to but no, I think they are. But it also comes down to, can this coaching staff get the best out of these players and help them all take a step forward?
I've been harping on this for a week.
That's the thing you have to count on the most.
Here, Dustin, I have more confidence in that player.
What does potential mean
with this staff than I did with previous staffs? So I'm gonna wait and see. But I can't sit here and say the depth is better because we haven't seen these guys play meaningful.
Yeah, so Sean, real quick.
Establish them as better.
Real quick.
The depth is clearly better, guys. The depth is clearly better.
Outside of your starters, right? So Braxton Jones, Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, John Wright. Here's the Bears depth chart at offensive line. Theo Benedette, Ricky Stromberg, Luke Newman, Jordan McFadden, Joshua Miles, Chris Glazer, Doug Kramer Jr., Ryan Bates, Bill Murray, Karan Amagaji, and Ozzie Trapilo. That's their offensive line.
Yes, that's much better than last year.
I love me some Bill Murray.
Much better than last year, guys.
But
that cannot be debated.
But still scary. Still scary. Still very scary.
But I think, Kyle, you kind of have had a
guys, three of those guys I've never heard of.
I've preached to you, though. I think you've kind of had this mentality. I think you write off the idea. Because you said to me yourself, you were reading me draft bios, and you're saying to me, Trapilo says potential starter. What does the word potential mean to you, and how do you get there? Because I think that you're not crediting enough this coaching staff.
Coaching
and
development.
Never had is going to be the potential. That's the potential. Is that it's not the players' potential. It's the fucking people who are going to take these projects on. And I said that earlier in the show. Is they're just as much responsible. But we have never had in this city coaches who, when you get a mid-round pick who's projected a project guy, they never make the project work.
What's up,
And
Lee?
we
Joe?
finally have coaches that I believe a guy like Luke Newman and Trapillo can actually become quality football players, if not starters in the NFL, because of the guys who are coaching them. That's where I think the depth is different to me now because of the coaches.
I agree with you. And we could talk
I
about
agree.
potential.
And the
all we
players
want.
are
That's
just better
fine.
too,
That's
guys.
fine. But the fact, you guys, that we're talking about who's going to be the starting left tackle, Braxton Jones, Ozzie Shapiro, or Karan Amagaji, means if I was a betting man, I would expect there to be some problems at left tackle this season. And ultimately, whether it be a
Unless all three end up being
tiny
good
little bit
players.
or a lot of it, it's going to affect Caleb Williams at some point. That's the question mark, and that sucks because left tackle to me is the second most important position on the offense. And then you throw on top of that, like Sean's already said, Jonah Jackson can't stay healthy, and even when he was playing, he wasn't great. So now you have a hole on both sides of the line. That could be potentially a massive problem.
The last time he played at center, which is not his position, Kyle. The last time he played any meaningful snaps, it was at center, which he's not capable of doing in terms of Jonah Jackson. But I want to ask you this question.
Here, hold on. When you say that about Jonah Jackson, that begs the question: if he was so good at guard, why didn't McVay put him back at guard? He didn't. He said, "Grab the bench."
Because he didn't start the season as a starter because he was injured and they needed help at the center position.
He started the season as a guard and got
because he was hurt
because of injury, but never got sent back to guard because he wasn't as good as the player that replaced him.
Because another guy stepped in and they had a good thing going.
Okay. All right. You don't keep your better players on the bench,
guys.
That's all.
The question to me, guys, is this. The question to me, guys, is this. Do you not think that competition will breed better out of a guy like Braxton Jones, out of a guy like Trapillo, and out of a guy like Karan Amagaji? Do you not trust Ben Johnson and his coaching staff to fire these fucking guys up, to get them working their asses off, and then to pick the best one? Do you trust Ben Johnson and his coaching staff to do that?
But I mean, that's the age-old question. How many ways can you polish up a turd?
No, I don't think that we're looking at that, though. You're telling me Trapillo, it can be a starting tackle in the NFL. Karan Amagaji was drafted to be that as well. So do you not trust or do you not believe that those guys are good enough for Ben Johnson to pick one that will be a capable, solid starting left tackle in the NFL?
Well, then you're in the same exact position with Braxton Jones because he's a capable starting left tackle in the NFL.
Is the answer no or yes? Is the answer no or yes?
I don't trust the fact that Braxton Jones starting left tackle, and I think that's ultimately what's going to end up happening. And that sucks for the Bears because I think they'll be
that's the way the Bears are leaning when you listen to their coaches talk if he's healthy. But all I'm asking you guys is, do you trust the Bears to make the best decision at that left tackle spot?
Yes.
And do you think
yes,
after spending a 5th round pick, a 3rd round pick, and a 2nd round pick, the Bears still don't have their left tackle on this roster right now?
Probably not.
They don't?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so Trapillo's not it. Karan's not it. Braxton's not it. Okay, so then Ryan Poles should not have his job.
I have a question.
That's kind of what we're saying, right?
I have a question for you.
I have a question for you, Justin. One of these years, he's going to have to drop in the 1st round. That's what's going to have to happen.
Here's the deal.
I would love to answer it.
Here's the deal, and I'll find the film and I'll send it to you. Ozzie Trapillo in college, what did he say? I was much more comfortable playing the right side, but I can play the left.
That's what I said when he was drafted.
Okay, yeah. So let me ask you this question. Yeah. If you're not comfortable playing in the ACC on the left side, you're going to get comfortable playing against the world's best players on the left side in the NFL? That doesn't make me feel overconfident, and that's why I'm saying I don't know if the depth is better. Let's see when these guys get out here. You're speculating, saying 100% that this depth is better, when this depth hasn't shown you a goddamn thing.
You look at this offensive line that we have this year and say, you look at this offensive line that we have this year versus the offensive line we had last year and say,
I like what Illinois Jones says, though. It works two ways. You can't say Trapillo isn't that guy because you've never seen him play.
That's what I just said.
Guy? But you can't say you said you can't say he is, but you can't say he isn't.
Said our depth is 100% better than last year. You're counting on guys. One guy who we saw fail miserably in Karan Amagaji, and one guy Trapillo who's never played a snap. But you're sitting here because some scouts said he was the most
have a real opportunity.
That the depth is better. You cannot.
Sean, well, let me ask you this:
look at this offensive line this year and say that it's the same. You can't tell if it's different than last year.
I think
you can't tell
on this line. Two guys on this line got better.
What I think,
and Tooney, yes.
What I think I continue to preach.
So
but I continue
Cooney
to
was an upgrade over
Tell me,
Tevin Jenkins.
a guy
Hold
who's
on.
just missed 18 games, 19 games over the past 2 years, and Jonah Jackson
Is
isn't a
Jonah
question mark?
Jackson an
For
upgrade
his
over
sake.
Nate Davis? And is Jonah Jackson an upgrade over Nate Davis and Matt Pryor?
Yeah, because he actually plays football, but that doesn't mean he's good.
Okay. So and Dahlman is an upgrade over.
I just said
Sean.
Dolman and Cooney are the only two places you 100% got better on this line. Unfortunately,
I just
there's
asked you about
5
Jonah
members in an
Jackson.
offensive line.
I just asked you about Jonah Jackson at the right guard spot. Did the right guard spot get better than it was last year with Nate Davis?
I don't know if Jonah Jackson is better than Matt Pryor.
I don't either.
So you think Matt Pryor would have been better off signing Matt Pryor to $1.5 million deal and starting him at right guard than trading for Jonah Jackson? That's what you think?
Here, I'll tell you this.
I think if you look at their
Bill Murray
numbers
might
on
be better than
PFF and you
Jonah
watch
Jackson.
the tape, they play very similarly. I think they're both better. I think Matt Pryor is better than people think, and Jonah Jackson's worse than people think.
Well, then
or
you
at least
guys
worse
don't
than people
believe.
are talking
Then you
about.
guys don't believe in Ben Johnson's vision because that's what he did.
That was his.
He
that
wanted
was
that
his-
guy. That's his guy.
You guys, but you.
It's his guy.
And then the
It's
Bears
100% his
readjusted his
guy.
contract so they could get it out immediately if they needed to because they probably aren't super confident.
Here, can
and
I-
you guys,
can I tell
you
you this?
say, "Oh, that's his guy." There's not that many options
is.
out there.
It is
It's
his
not,
guy.
it's not like you have
Just because I
10,000
wanted
options.
Ben-
He was their guy because he was available. But ultimately, their goal might be to replace him.
Yeah,
as
but
soon
was
as
he
possible.
available,
You
or
don't know
did Ben
that.
make the call? Was he available, or did Ben call and ask?
Yeah, he was
Ryan
available because the
Poles
Rams
did.
weren't going to give him the Rams were never going to pay out that contract. They
So
were
let
never
me
gonna
ask
pay
you-
out
let me
that
ask you
contract.
this though.
Yes.
Let me ask you this though. You're talking about depth of this Bears team last year and not being better this year. I would have to assume though then that
I love you,
means
Joe.
because
Thank you, buddy.
this is the thing that I continue to say, and you guys you kind of say, yeah, I agree with you, but then you completely brush it off by the statements you make. You think that Dan Roshar is no better than Chris Morgan if you think the depth on this football team is worse than it was last year. Dan Roshar is a guy who's taken 3rd and 4th round picks and made them Pro Bowl caliber players.
That's
We
fine.
drafted 2 guys, one in the 3rd, one in the 2nd round.
You're not
You don't
making
think
an
Dan
argument.
Roshar
Hey,
can do
Brandon,
more than Chris Morgan
did
did
I
with
not-
these
did I
guys
not
on this
just-
football team?
If you were listening
40
just
plus
a
years
minute
of
ago,
coaching?
if you were listening just a minute ago, I said Bill Murray is probably better than Jonah Jackson right
But
now.
Trapillo
and I think
could be
Roshar
the
was
Good thing he's
next
on our
starter.
team. Good thing he's
Dan
on our
Roshar
team.
I don't believe in
made-
Jonah Jackson. You know why? Because he doesn't stay on the
Come
football
on.
field. He
Sean, let
has
me
to
tell you
stay on the
this.
football
Let me
field.
tell you this.
So I don't
If-
believe in a guy who's not healthy.
I believe in the fact.
Stay out there for 17 games. I'll believe in you. But he has not done that for 2 consecutive football seasons.
Okay,
If
so
you're
then
putting your faith in him,
if they
saying he's the answer.
Hold on, but then you're saying they have no depth, but the guy behind them is better. If he doesn't play, the guy who's you think the guy behind him is better, he'll step in and perform better. And I'll tell you
hope
this:
so.
Ben
But I
Johnson
don't
won.
know.
Ben
Here,
Johnson,
I
let me
answered
say
on
this.
the
Let me
show
make
2
this
weeks
point.
ago.
Ben Johnson won.
I answered this on the show 2 weeks ago, Dustin. I said Jonah Jackson's a C+. If you're talking about a B in Bill Murray, that's still not elite or great. It's just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier. Just so to sort this out a little bit. Yeah, Sean, you're answering the question as if they're saying, like, you can say yes, the line got better, but the question is how much better. That's
Can
the
you
question.
just say it, though, Kyle?
Yeah,
Can
but
you
yes,
say
they
it?
got
Did
better.
the line get
Of
better
course.
or not?
Yes.
Okay,
They
thank you.
definitely
I've been
got
asking that question for 10 minutes. Nobody wants to answer it.
Yes,
Because they're
they
talking
got
about how
better.
this line it has all these question marks. You
They
can't
do.
fix that entire
do.
offensive line in one offseason.
Yes.
3
So
out of
you're-
5 positions
so-
were upgraded this
So
offseason.
everybody's right. So
Period.
everybody's right. Because the line still have huge question marks. Yes. Did the line get better? Yes. How much better? We don't know. So real
And
quick,
assets were put into it.
we have
Assets
two-
were put
two-
into it
two
to
people
make
just-
it better.
two people
It's
just joined the
60 in
show
the
here.
chat, guys.
Jeremy the second, he
Yeah,
said,
they're
y'all
killing
make Ben Johnson's coaching staff sound like the best in the NFL. Did we just hire Andy Reid? And then the Jacker Hunter, fire
I've never
Ryan
seen that name before.
immediately.
Fire Ryan
Yeah, right.
immediately. Ooh.
Yeah, that's not.
Bringing the heat.
He probably doesn't like Jonah Jackson.
Is not a fan of Ryan Poles.
He said he thinks Bill Murray could be better than Jonah Jackson. The one thing I do have confidence in right now is that if Ben Johnson sees that and believes that to be true, Sean, Bill Murray will start over Jonah Jackson. No questions asked. Jonah Jackson does not have to get hurt. Ben Johnson is not going to give Jonah Jackson the starting job because he traded for him. Nobody has that allegiance on this team.
No,
The
Sean
best-
already said that earlier, that you don't get paid. You don't play because of your contract on this football team.
Yes. Ben Johnson is going to instill and has already started to instill a culture built around competition and the best man wins. So if you believe that, Sean, and then Ben Johnson sees that and that plays out, That's the guy who will be starting. That's why I have more confidence in the left tackle spot than I did last year, because we have options and we have a guy who will identify the best player to be that best option.
And you have a coach who will mold
no
young
ties,
players.
no
And all
allegiance.
I'm saying is, you're sitting here saying those three choices are elite. You don't know that those two choices.
I'm not saying they're elite. I didn't say
Braxton
that.
Jones.
Didn't say that.
That's my point to you. You're saying they're better. I'm telling you,
You're not going to get elite left tackles drafted in the first, second round.
They might be just as bad as him.
Might be worse.
Yes, but you have a 40-year coach who's made a career out of turning third-round picks into Pro Bowl players. Why does this keep getting overlooked? You have two young guys in Karan Amagaji and Isaac Trapillo, right? Two young guys who if Shane Waldron and Chris Morgan were the coaches, I would have wrote them off today, guys. Here's the difference. A coach with 40 plus years experience and who has made multiple mid-round picks, Pro Bowl caliber players, guys. This is what Dan Rocher has done. He has turned third and fourth round picks into Pro Bowl starting NFL players. Why would you not think that your options are already better, and the guys you haven't seen play, like Karan Amagaji and Ozzie Trapillo, are going to be better players than they were under Chris Morgan, who failed at developing anybody he ever coached in his entire life?
Nobody knows.
That has to make the difference.
Nobody knows. So let's just, the conversation's not going to get anywhere because we don't know what Karan Amagaji and Ozzie Trapillo
I know what Dan Rocher is.
You're all making the same point. You guys are just making it in different ways. Real quick, we have a new joiner here. Willie Lampkins replied to Jeremy talking about why you guys are so high in Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is, Jeremy, the relative improvement from last year's coaches to this year's coaches makes it feel that good. I agree with you 100%.
Next comment, Kyle. Bates, the rookie from Michigan State, Newman, Ozzie, Karan. O-line depth is finally decent for once in the past 15 years.
Yeah,
it is better than it has been, guys.
Yeah, and that's
you cannot deny that.
You
the
guys
Bears have said we need to fix this, and they've gone out.
Is that the same Ryan Bates that we all constantly shit all over on this podcast and say that it was a terrible trade for Ryan
As a starting center? Yeah, he's terrible. As a backup guard.
All right, how many of these guys, how many guys are we going to have this conversation about in the Bears offensive line? We're like, yeah, well, he's playing in this position. He's great. When he's in that position, he's okay. And over here, he's like, hey, how about we just get a fucking guard?
Yeah, we did.
How about that?
Tooney. And then we went and got Jonah Jackson. We got two of them. And then we drafted one in Luke Newman. And then we signed a center in Dolman.
The conversation's not going anywhere. Yes, just listen. The defensive line got better too. And you still want a defensive end. The defensive line got better too. We drafted a guy. We signed two guys in free agency and gave them $100 million. And you guys are like, defensive end. Brady, Jarrett, and Deo combined. And you guys are like, defensive end.
Yeah, the Bears.
We put a lot of stock in the defensive line as well. Yeah, and the Bears protecting the quarterback is a question mark as well. Yes, both are. Conversation over.
They're all going to be question marks until we see it on the field. Do you feel more confidence in the offensive line or the defensive line?
Jeremy the second, I love you.
Honestly, the defensive line.
5th round backup.
That's crazy.
After an injury in LA.
I think your guys is. I think if you were to grade Ben Johnson right now off what he's done as a coach, you would give him like a fucking D. Because you hate everything this guy has done.
The only thing I don't like is Jonah Jackson. What else have I said?
It's pretty amazing that the two biggest advocates for Ben Johnson.
Hey, when it happens,
what else, Brandon, have I said I don't like about Ben Johnson?
I think we should watch. I think we should watch Jonah Jackson in Ben Johnson's system and see how that goes.
Because the last time he played really well.
Oh, you know what?
He played really well was before Ben Johnson.
Guys, this conversation, like Brennan, you and Dustin constantly preach about you, especially you, Brennan, don't have faith in Javon Dexter and Montez Sweat. Sean's saying he doesn't have faith in
and Kyle, what do I keep saying?
What
do I keep saying?
Conversation that's never going to end. You guys have faith in some people, he does, and vice versa.
Yeah, people are loving it. But Kyle, no, hold on. You keep mentioning that. What do I keep saying though in regards to the defensive end? You keep asking me if I want a veteran edge rusher. What do I keep saying? No, I want the coaches that we hired to develop a guy like Austin Booker into a better player.
Yeah, and
that's what I want from Ozzie Trapillo. That's what I want from Luke Newman. That's what I want from Karan Amagaji. Guys, do you think? Hold on. Do you think that the Eagles continuously draft the right guy? Let me ask you this. Do you think that the Eagles draft a starter at every position on every position at the depth chart? Do you think? Hold on. Do you think the Eagles?
Conversation, Kyle.
Do you think the Eagles continuously draft starting 5th round picks?
The circle we're going in.
Do we think that the Eagles draft starters at every round at every position? Is that what we think?
When you go to the last 3 or 4 drafts, Their first 4 rounds have been really
They're-
solid. That's how you build an NFL.
When
team.
they draft developmental pieces, when they draft a guy who you consider a
Okay,
project
so
guy
next
in the
time
5th
you and
round,
Dustin are saying
they
you want a
make
defensive
him
end,
a
we're going to
better
say, hey, shut
football
up. Austin Booker is a developmental player, and they have a better coaching staff. You
Trapillo
guys
is
can't complain
too.
about defensive end. We want a left tackle. You want a defensive end. I don't believe they have either.
No, I
Okay,
want
how
the
about that?
guy who's on the
Okay,
team
so
to
then
be
Ozzie
better.
Trapillo is not a left tackle then, Kyle, right?
I don't know. I don't
don't
know.
know.
And I don't know if Austin Booker's a defensive end. I don't know.
I mean,
Yes,
he's not
no.
a safety.
And I started
He's
this
not a
conversation.
quarterback.
And I started this conversation out by saying, "Hey guys, there's only one way to find out."
Yeah,
That's
but
how
in
I
the
started the
meantime,
conversation.
what are we going to talk about? In the meantime, what are we going to talk about?
But you guys, we don't have to just I think we all want more depth on both sides of the offensive and defensive line, and we're not supremely confident in either of them. And you guys are just saying, hey, they're better than last year. Yeah, sure they are. Are they good enough to win a Super Bowl?
Well,
I don't know.
No,
I'll
they're
tell you
not.
this right
No,
now.
they're
I'll
not.
tell
I
you
don't
this
think they
right
are.
now.
Not right now.
And I
no.
mean this wholeheartedly off a Scottish Bears point, and I don't know if he's, being facetious or not, but I'll tell you this right now. If Trapillo doesn't work out, it's going to become, you're going to hear the narrative. He's only here because of Pole's connections to his dad. If he doesn't work out, because he passed on left tackles to take a freaking right tackle that didn't want to play left tackle in college out of his own freaking mouth.
You guys really, you are just, the writing's on the wall for Ozzie Trapillo, huh?
Well, here's
I'm
the
not.
thing.
Just a no contest.
Here's the thing
That
that
guy's
I'm
done.
I'm saying
He
this goes back
sucks.
to what the Bears always do.
Vernon, we could
Instead
say
of
the same thing
drafting
to
a
you. The
player
writing's
at
on the
the
wall.
Sean talked
position,
me into liking Trapillo. Sean talked me into liking Trapillo. I was bothered by that
Kyle
draft
had
pick
me
when
so-
it happened. And Sean was like, I did a profile on him. Go check it out. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go check it out. And I was like, okay, I feel a little better about this Trapillo thing. Thanks, Sean.
I don't hate
now,
Ozzie
now the
Trapillo.
sky's falling on my
Listen,
head because Sean is
I
like,
don't hate Ozzie Trapillo. I hate the fact that he's been a right tackle. He was a really good pro-ready right tackle, and the Bears are like, well, we're going to put you on the left side of the line, even though you're much better on the right. That's the shit that needs to stop, and I'm sorry.
he has bypassed better players throughout a lot of his drafts. I've been saying that. I've been lamenting that. I've been told he did the right thing and taking Darnell Wright instead of Jalen Carter. He consistently does these.
Vernon, Dustin, are you guys confident in Austin Booker defensive end?
I don't know if everyone is right.
I'm confident in the coaching's ability to make him a better player now.
Okay, now Vernon, would you still take Myles Garrett over Austin Booker? Like if that trade was a possibility and the Bears traded Austin Booker for Myles Garrett and a bunch of other stuff, would you be upset about
Myles Garrett?
Okay, well that's the same conversation we have about the left tackle. Like
was there an all-pro left tackle up for trade?
Ozzie Trapillo? Yes, there was, and the Washington Commanders acquired him from the Texans for nothing.
I don't think he's all pro. I don't think Tunsil was all pro.
Laramie Tunsil's a solid player. He's a good left tackle.
One of the best left tackles in football.
He's a good left tackle. And I mean, they gave up a few draft picks.
Hold on though. You guys, when I said we should trade for Garrett, didn't want to trade draft capital to get an all-pro player in a position.
Vernon, the cost of Myles Garrett compared to Laramie Tunsil is absolutely not even a conversation.
Hey guys,
but because Myles Garrett's a much better player than Laramie Tunsil.
He just got $40 million a year.
When I say Tunsil's one of the best in the league, he's a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle.
Yeah, he's a damn good left tackle.
Why are we talking about a thing that didn't happen, guys?
Because that's the movie should have made.
Well, no,
it doesn't matter. He didn't. He drafted Ozzie Trapillo. So why are we talking about Laramie Tunsil?
Because the way you talk is you seem supremely confident in this offensive line and the depth of it because we drafted Ozzie Trapillo and we have good coaching staff. But you don't say the same thing about Austin Booker. You say we're not going to get that many sacks. We're not going to get that many sacks. We're going to get 40
coaches
sacks
can develop.
We'll be in the back half of the NFL.
Like
if Austin Booker's amazing, then we'll probably not be in the back half.
I have a lot more faith in our coaching staff than you guys do. I'm going to say that.
Dan Rocher and Bill Johnson.
That's a fact. I have a lot more faith in our coaches than you guys do.
Hey, Brandon,
100%.
Time out.
I agree, Brandon. Dan Rocher and Bill Johnson are going to make an impact on both of those lines.
No, yes, I believe that our players that are already on this roster, like Karana Magashi and Austin Booker, could be better.
When you just said this defensive line was going to finish in the bottom half of the freaking league.
Yeah, they are because they just don't have the talent.
Showing confidence in the coaches.
They just don't have the talent, Sean. And you know why? Because Montez Sweat's not $100 million player. He's not.
Vernon,
which we've argued about as well. Montez Sweat is below average in regards to his contract.
Give me the equivalence talent of what you're talking about. Somebody better than Montez Sweat. That's what you want. Montez Sweat's top was considered.
No, I want Montez Sweat to be made better by the coaches they hire. That's what I want. I want Montez Sweat to be elevated. I want Montez Sweat to be a better football player because we hired a good coach.
Let me finish my question. Okay, fine. Montez Sweat gets better and goes in the top 5. Now give me the equal on the Bears offensive line. And I want a guy like that on the offensive line.
Darnell Wright.
He's not here.
Darnell Wright.
Darnell Wright is not equal to Montez Sweat.
Brendan, you didn't even
top 500 position already.
So he's better than Montez Sweat by a lot.
Brendan told us for 2 years that Darnell Wright was not worthy of his draft.
Guys, here's the point. Here's my point. We have what we have. We can't do anything else about it. So your hope now must be that your coaches get more production out of the players you have on your roster. We can't talk about Laramie Tunsil. We can't talk about Myles Garrett. We can't talk about the things we don't fucking have. Why are we wasting a podcast where viewers have to listen about the hypotheticals that were? Let's talk about who's on the football team. The coaches need to develop the players that are here to be better, including Montez Sweat, including veteran players. That's what needs to happen.
It's going to be by committee. You don't need Trey Hendrickson on the Chicago Bears. They're going to get a lot of sacks on this team. I'm going to guess 50 sacks, 10 more than last year. If you want to place a bet, I'm more than willing. And it's going to be because he's Dennis Allen's very impressive and very creative with his. You're going to see Kyler Gordon.
It's going to be blocking by committee.
Edwards gets sacks. You're going to see Javon Dexter get sacks. Montez Sweat.
Okay, it's going to be blocking by committee. You're going to see Preston Jones get pancakes. It's going to be blocking the quarterback by committee.
You guys are like, the offensive line is better. The offensive line is better. The offensive line is better. Is the defensive line? No, I don't trust the talent. We just signed the best Atlanta Falcons defensive line in the history of the Atlanta Falcons.
We just signed the best left guard in NFL history, possibly.
Hey,
we just signed the best left guard.
Same age as Joe Tooney.
Guys, I want to highlight a chat here because I think that this is important.
Joe Tooney.
Boys, this is important to this conversation. And Willie, I made this point as soon as they got Tooney, and I think other people on this panel have too. Left tackle is going to be fine, average in parentheses, no matter what, right? Because Joe Tooney at left guard has a ridiculous amount of help to the left tackle.
Possibly the best that ever played.
Tooney making that impact on this offensive line, he will make the guys next to him better. Kyle, can you debate that? You think that the left tackle has better help now than it did last year?
I'm not going to debate that, but if you guys are the ones who liked Deo, the Bears signed Grady Jarrett, they can make guys like Montez Sweat better.
Yes,
they can make Sweat better. They can take away pressure from Montez Sweat. Better. Vice versa, it doesn't matter. I don't give a shit. But you guys should just be like, oh, well, all the signings they made on the defensive line were average, and we still need defensive line help. We should get a premier defensive end. And you guys get mad at us when we're like, oh, the offensive line help average at left tackles, but that's your standard. I want amazing, and the Bears could have done that just like they could have drafted a defensive end in the first round, guys. The conversation goes both ways, but you know what?
And I want amazing out of Montez Sweat because that's what
you know what? I was the one on this podcast who said for months, hey, you know what? I don't think they're going to be able to get a defensive end and a left tackle and everything all in one offseason. So what they should do, address offense. What they do in the offseason.
Wait.
Drew Dolman, Joe Tooney.
That's not the same thing.
What they do in the draft.
That's not the same
Wilson
thing.
Loveland, Luther Burden.
Jonah Jackson is going to play the right guard. Tooney is
that's not the same thing, though. You're talking about the Bears signed a 32-year-old Grady Jarrett, who, by the way, you guys are much more excited about that signing than I am.
Sean.
Much more excited.
How old
is
Joe
Tooney? They signed a Joe Tooney.
Sean, how old is Joe Tooney?
Hold on. They signed a 32-year-old Grady Jarrett, and they added Dale, who had like 5.5 sacks, versus drafting 2 offensive linemen and trading for 2 offensive linemen. I feel like the work they've done on the offensive line was a little more committal than the work they've done on the defensive line. And then once again, guys, Darnell Wright is a stud, and he's getting better every year. Montez Sweat regressed. And he's getting worse. And he's not the player you paid him to be.
If Montez Sweat has a good season, you're going to have a long podcast.
If the offensive line,
last year.
Hey, Sean.
Blasphemy.
Sean, I asked you. You want to hear some shit? Hey, hold on, chat. Dustin, Kyle, chat. I asked Sean on last week's the bare minimum headline or deadline. The Bears have under 40 sacks, and he said headline. So you tell me, man, why is it on one show you agree with what Kyle's saying when it comes to the left tackle? Yes, you did.
I said the Bears would be above 40 sacks.
No, you didn't. You said below.
I
You said you
did.
could see 39 is the number that you put out there. But
We'll go
guys,
back
why?
to look.
Why
I
is
want to
it?
shout out
And you know what the league
TV17 real
average
quick
is? 40.
because he says
But
I
you
heard
said
this is
would
where the
be a
clowns
bottom
hang out.
offensive,
Thanks for
defensive
being
line.
here and spending your
The
time
40's
watching
average,
us.
and I said they're average.
He's been
Yeah, this has turned into a fucking disaster. Honestly, for anybody who's still watching the show, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for
Guys, we got 70 people watching. Why do you guys keep denigrating what we're doing here? This is going pretty well. I don't understand why
it's
we
too much passion, man. It's too much.
Passion is a great thing.
It is, but it is in moderation. It is in moderation.
We got another new watcher here, man. Alan Pena. Welcome to the
Y'all
show,
are all
Alan.
getting
Thanks for
butthurt
checking
over
us out,
nothing. This is fans talking about the team that they love and wanting them to.
Let's just ask the
better.
chat, guys. Did the Bears
be better?
Did the
That's all
Bears?
this is.
Let's ask the chat, guys.
Better
Did the
about
Bears do more work to improve their offensive line, or did the Bears do more work to improve their defensive line? Let's ask the chat what they think about that.
Dante says we're the best thing that's going. Brandon, stop talking down on our name. Kyle, we're doing fine. Did
the Bears do more work to their offense? Did they improve the offensive line more, or did they improve the defensive line more?
I think they did. I think it was equal.
I want to hear what fans have to say, what the chat has to say about that.
Thanks,
you want to hear what the chat has
Hold
to say?
Hold on. We got one more. We got
they love
offensive line. Offensive line.
Thanks, Dante. Thanks, Joe.
Offensive line. Offensive line. That's three offensive line.
Brandon, could you let somebody else speak?
Clearly did more for the offensive line. Clearly did more for the. I agree with you.
And you know why? You know why they did?
Because they drafted a franchise quarterback number one.
Because Caleb
you guys would
Williams,
go
100%.
back and take your heads out of your butts and remember the first half of the season when the defensive line was in the top 10, they didn't have to improve much. They grabbed Brady Jarrett. They grabbed Deo. You have a developing Austin Booker. They didn't need to do as much on the side. You have a dynamite secondary. You have two supposedly good linebackers. You didn't need to improve as much on the defensive side as you did on the offensive side. That almost got your freaking quarterback killed last year. So,
Sean, on top of that, Sean, on top of that, you remember me saying on this podcast when we had the Myles Garrett conversation. You guys all remember this. Brandon and Dustin were pushing very hard for Myles Garrett, and I said I don't want him. They said why? I said because if you take that many resources, your first pick overall, another pick in the second round, and $40 million a year,
you might as well have not spent those resources on the draft because you're telling me the guys that they drafted aren't going to be playing the positions that they drafted them to play.
Yeah,
you're
but Dustin,
you don't know if Phil's a left tackle.
Dustin, could you sign Joe Tooney?
Those resources have been. What good would they have been in your mind?
At the end of the day, all that matters is protecting the quarterback. Now, if the 100%. Bears hit on those picks and on those trades, I don't know. But you still have to make the attempt.
They made the picks. They took those resources and put it into the offensive line.
Yes, and all you guys wanted in the offseason when I was staying office, yes, and you guys wanted defensive line. And you guys wanted defensive line. That's what you wanted. You told us numerous times you guys wanted them to do. Brennan was talking about a defensive lineman at number 10 overall. You know what you should do when you have when you drafted a rookie quarterback, number one overall?
Trading up for
Abdul Carter. You should protect him, and you should give him weapons and make it really easy for him to learn a new offense in his second year in the NFL. Yeah, you took a guy who opens up the middle of the field for a second-year quarterback, learning a brand new scheme.
Why do you guys have to get so beat red and scream so loud? You can get your point across without doing that.
But here, the ultimate point to me, guys. The ultimate point to me, guys, is that they did spend the resources on this offensive line, which is what you wanted them to do.
They traded draft capital.
Yes, they did.
They traded draft capital.
We've all said it's better.
They've extended Jackson. They've extended Tooney.
It's all better. It's just not done. It's not finished.
No, nobody's saying it's finished, but it doesn't mean that it's not good enough right now.
It's finished because if you guys are saying Jonah Jackson is amazing and Ozzie Trapilo is going to be the starting left tackle in the NFL, then it's finished.
I don't know that he is. I don't know. I just have
That's
confidence.
What I said 45 minutes ago.
You just said 2 minutes ago you were sure.
I've never said that I thought he was, guys. I said Quran. I would rather
45 minutes ago, you guys, I said there's learning.
If Trapilo isn't good enough to compete for this job, Ryan Poles shouldn't be here anymore. And wait, hold on. Sean and Kyle, you said earlier in this show, when we started the show, you said Ryan Poles can't be held accountable for the failures because he's done everything that we asked of him. So what are you saying now? That he didn't do the one thing you wanted most? What are you saying? I don't understand, because you said Ryan Poles has done everything that he was supposed to do to make this team a better football team.
I said he's done. They did everything this offseason that Bears fans wanted them to do.
Okay.
Rebuild the offensive line. I didn't say the right players were here. I didn't say the right players were here. I said he made an attempt to.
If you're saying the right players aren't here, though, you're saying that the right GM and the right coach aren't here. That's what you're saying, Sean.
I never said.
All right, Chad, I'm doing it. $20. $20. The Bears are ranked higher at sacks allowed than they are in sacks accumulated. I'm going to say $20 right now. The Bears are ranked better this year in sacks allowed. They have a lower amount of sacks. They're ranked higher in the NFL than they are in sacks against, the sacks for, the sacks that they acquire. I'm going to say that right now. Their offensive line will be a better unit than their defensive line.
That statement you just made, what is that? How does that impact the conversation in any way, shape, or form?
They improved their offensive line more.
Sean knows.
Yeah, they improved both.
Yes.
How much we don't know. You guys love Deo. You guys were talking about this guy like he's gonna have 13 sacks next year.
Ooh.
Brennan, all three of you guys, when they signed Dale, were like, this guy has the highest quarterback pressure rate in the NFL.
No. I'm not
a guy
crazy
who's
about
constantly
Dale.
creating pressure. He just hasn't gotten there yet.
No, I'm not crazy about it. We can go back to that show. I'm not crazy about Dale. I'm not crazy about Grady Jarrett. I don't love the Grady Jarrett signing. Everybody's telling me how good Grady Jarrett was the best Atlanta Falcon ever. Grady Jarrett's 32 fucking years old and he plays a position that ages quickly. I'm not excited about Grady Jarrett like you
offensive linemen don't play late in their 30s, man.
Yes, they do.
Oh, they don't.
Travis Kelce was the best center in football at like 38. Jason Kelce,
yeah, the big brother,
was a Pro Bowler his final season.
Vernon,
he was like 35 years old.
You're picking one player. Give me five.
Give me a defensive tackle that played well into
Michael
his
Strahan.
mid-30s.
Michael Strahan played until he was like 37, and he had like 19 sacks in his last season.
Okay, so but here, listen, the Bears have improved across the board, guys, in multiple spots. Have they improved enough? No, nobody's saying that it's done.
I said it's not finished. That's
I don't think anybody's saying
Justin,
that.
hold on.
Just because we have confidence that the coaching staff can help these guys perform better
have they improved on the edge?
It doesn't mean that we think it's done, but it could be good enough this season to compete.
Justin, I agree with you 100% on both sides.
But have they improved on the edge?
What you just said is true.
I agree.
Both improved. Both still have question marks.
Have they improved on the edge? They lost Walker and signed Dale. How much have they improved on the edge?
And they have Austin Booker going to his second season, Brandon.
I have a lot of faith in Austin Booker, guys.
So do I, man.
So do I.
Okay, but Austin Booker was here. How much have they improved on the edge? Austin Booker was already here. That doesn't count.
Him going into his second year is yes, it does.
Austin Booker doesn't count. Guys, how much have they improved on the edge?
Again, am I talking to myself? Dale is an improvement over Walker.
How much?
A lot.
How much?
Houston.
How many sacks? How many sacks did Dale have last year?
Guys, Jed says AI.
How many sacks did Walker have last year?
I just love that comment because the authenticity here is just palpable.
Again, sacks aren't the only stat. You're stuck on sacks, creating pressure, getting the quarterback to make mistakes, roll out of the pocket.
How improved are the Bears' edge rushers?
Is just as important as sacking the quarterback.
Okay,
the improvement is
Dale and DeMarcus Walker had the same amount of sacks last season. How much improved have they got?
On paper, it's about the same. But the improvement needs to come from Montez Sweat actually doing what he gets paid.
The improvement needs to come.
That's where the improvement needs.
No, it needs to come from the scheme of Dennis Allen. It needs to come from the scheme of Dennis Allen.
Montez Sweat.
Dennis Allen is going to be much more aggressive. Kyler Gordon's going to rush the quarterback more. Tremaine Edmonds is going to rush the quarterback more. Edwards is going to rush the quarterback more. Austin Booker is going to be on the field more. Deo just got $50 million.
Have we seen Allen before?
Grady Jarrett just got $40 million.
I've never seen that name before.
Javon Dexter's going to his third season.
Sean read his name a little earlier.
And they expect, Bernard on top of all that. On top of all that, Andrew Billings is coming back healthy.
We hope for sure. Listen, there's reason for optimism. There's reason for trepidation. There's reason for trepidation. We as Bears fans know that better than most other fan bases because we get built up to get let down. But if I'm going to look at this offensive line, I have just logically, guys, this is not my Bears fandom. Just logically looking at this offensive line, it is the best offensive line I've seen in Chicago in 10 years, guys. It is on paper. It is. You cannot debate that.
The starting unit? The starting unit.
Yes. Okay. Yes, 100%. It is. And honestly, the depth is worlds better than it was last year.
Yeah, okay, 100%. Now where does the left tackle stand in the Bears history? Where do you have Braxton Jones ranks since you've been alive in Bears left tackle? Where do you have him? Tell me where he's ranked.
right next to Charles Leno, dude. It's not like it's not.
Yeah, so you guys,
the Bears haven't had great left tackles throughout their.
Yeah, and I think that's the second most important position in football. I think that is the second most important for me personally.
The best left tackle I've seen on the Bears is Big Cat.
Yeah, and you say
I know you said defensive end is
the second. Your second
sacks are more impactful than pressures.
That's why I always talk about the offensive line, and you always talk about the defensive end. Because I think left tackle is more important than defensive end. I've heard you say in this podcast you think vice versa. That's fine.
Good point.
It's okay. That's fine. Me personally, I've never seen a franchise quarterback. I don't want one with like a torn ACL, broken leg, broken arm. I want a quarterback who stands in the pocket, gets plenty of time, and then he's aided by great weapons, a great offensive line, and a great play caller. That's what I want. And right now, for me personally, that is more important. That's a bigger priority to me than the defensive end.
But I think we got that, Kyle, I think we got that. Look at the weapons. Yeah. Look at the offensive line improvement.
We'll see. Yeah,
look at the offensive head coach that was hired to.
I'm also a Chicago Bears fan, so if we're like 1-7 and our offense is scoring a touchdown half a game, I also won't be surprised.
Yes, I get it. One Chain makes this point, and I just want to touch on this, guys, because this is the guy, Sean. I know you love him, and I've never given up on him. Javon, and I was disappointed that he was taken instead of Jalen Carter in that draft, but Javon Dexter has acquitted himself very well. One Chain says it's a make or break season for him. I think this is a make season for Javon. I think Javon Dexter has a better season this year than he had last year. I think he continues to improve, and he earns himself a second contract, guys. I think Javon Dexter is in for a hell of a season.
Yes,
and that's going to make a huge impact on this defense.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to talk to Brandon about for a while now. I think he's going to be a dominant defensive tackle in the NFL.
Really quick to answer Melon Smasher, if you think that creating pressure doesn't make the quarterback have poor decisions,
no, he's saying it doesn't record negative plays. Sean, it doesn't record negative plays.
It can lead to negative plays.
It's a negative play if they
intercept the ball. I can find a statistic where it is.
No, I mean statistically, you can't record it as a negative play. Statistically,
I think that pressures are just.
They should just take pressures away altogether because they're a meaningless fucking stat.
They're not meaningless, Sean.
And the only thing that matters is if you sack the quarterback.
Sean, they're just as important.
I've ever heard in my life.
They're just as important as sacks, Sean. You are 100% correct. And if you can consistently get pressure, then you
have two guys right now on each side that combined created 100 pressures on the quarterback last year. 100, but that's not going to improve your defensive line at all. Is another absurd thing not to say here, guys.
You said between two guys, 100 quarterback pressures. I would like to see that. I don't know.
Had 50.
Dale had 50 and Sweat had 51.
50. That's 100.
According to who? PFF? Is that a PFF stat? Is that a PFF stat? The pressures?
Yeah, well, you go find it somewhere else. You go find it out. You go find it somewhere else.
Montez really had 50 pressures last year?
Yes, but he sucks, guys. You guys don't realize how close he was. He was a better than league average at every statistical category.
He better damn be. He's $100 million.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
He's above league average. He's $100 million player.
He played.
Is there a hey? Hold on. Is there $100 million tackle that's underperforming?
You guys.
Oh my God.
I'm honestly.
All right, well, Bernard. Well, how about this? Let's just start making Bernard. I'll bet you $100 the Bears have more sacks this year than they did last year. What do you say? You take that bet? I'll bet you $100 the Bears have more sacks this year.
You gotta give me a number. You can't just say more sacks.
All right, well, how many sacks? What do they have?
Tell me. I'll take a bet. They have less than 10 sacks more than last year.
So yeah, 49 total pressures, 26th in the NFL. 26.
I'll take that bet, Bernard. I'll take that bet
for Montez Sweat.
He's 26th in the NFL when he's paid when he's paid fifth most. That's interesting.
No,
even in pressure,
paid for guys. He's also like number one against the run of every defensive lineman in football.
Here we go.
Listen, I want Sweat to have a great.
I like how you talk, Bernard. I like how you say that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to you. That the defensive end play the run.
Braxton Jones is like second in the league against blocking the run. We should pay him $100 million. Are you saying
Braxton Jones is
because he does one thing well?
Is that what you're saying? Is that the argument you're making?
I'm saying Montez Sweat needs to be better this season, and you guys disagree.
Every single Bear
pressures that we can't argue that, but it's 26th in the league.
He needs to be better. He needs to be better.
Again. So does Caleb Williams. So does DeAndre Swift. So does Braxton Jones. So does Kyler Gordon.
But they're not paid $100 million.
So does TJ Edwards. Let me ask
you this question.
No, Jalen Johnson's good. Jalen Johnson can keep doing Jalen Johnson.
DJ Moore's paid $100 million. He wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver last year.
I wouldn't have paid I probably wouldn't have paid DJ Moore that contract, to be honest. Sean,
that's dumb. That's a dumb statement.
DJ Moore is worth that contract. That's a solid contract.
He's underpaid, bro. He's underpaid, bro.
So what you guys are saying when you make that point, Kyle, is that the coaching staff needs to impact this roster, because you're saying that the coaching staff last year negatively impacted this roster.
So I would not pass any judgment to Montez Sweat.
You have faith in this coaching staff? Okay, so that's.
And I'm not passing any judgment on Montez.
So that's kind of been my point the whole show.
Montez Sweat is an all-pro. You guys both better come on here and fucking eat crow.
All pro.
Sucks so bad.
All
and
pro.
He's fucking awful.
Listen, I hope Montez Sweat has an amazing season this year. I think the Bears I thought the Bears overpaid when they made the trade. I said it the day of. Kyle got pissed off at me the day it happened when I was texting saying this was a giant overpay, and they put themselves in a position to get bent over the barrel when it came to the negotiations. That's been my stance from day one, man. He has not really proved me wrong.
Second Pro Bowl of his career this year.
Okay, I want to see more from the guy that you're paying that much, Sean. That's all, and I think that's a fair statement to make. It doesn't make me not a Bears fan. It doesn't mean
that's all I said last time. Is I just want to. I think you should do better.
If you're paying TJ Watts, if you're paying
you guys coming
Myles
out here
Garrett,
saying,
if you're paying those guys, you don't question whether or not they're going to get double-digit
first
sacks.
First of all, Myles Garrett's making $40 million a year.
Sacks.
He's making $40 million a year. The contracts are not even comparable. It's almost Montez Sweat's almost making half of what he's making. First of all, second of all,
that just changed this year.
The conversation doesn't.
He made the same as
exactly, you guys. Every year they reset the market, including Montez Sweat. And by the way, on top of all that, you guys are like, well, we got to single-handedly call him
not overpaid.
He's not paid $100 million. Guess what? Everybody who's paid on the Bears last year, no matter what they were paid, underperformed. Everybody.
Because of the coaching staff, right? Because of the terrible leadership.
DeAndre Swift underperformed. Was that a bad signing?
Because of we all had questions about that signing when it happened.
It was an average signing. That's what it was. It was an average running back for an average price.
Yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, and he also performed pretty well given the circumstances.
Yeah,
but
he also averaged less than 4 yards a carry. He averaged 3.7 yards per carry.
It comes down to that, though. If you're going to say everybody had a down year because the coaching staff had a down year, then this coaching staff should improve that, and those things should come up, and that should apply across the board to the offensive line as well.
Okay, fine. Now let me ask you a question. Is Montez Sweat worth $25 million a year, which is what he's getting paid, which the year prior, when he was on the Washington and Bears combined, was top 5 in sacks, top 5 in quarterback pressures, top 5 in run against the run as a defensive end, top 5 in tackles for loss, and he never came off the field. Is that worth $25 million a year?
The same coaching staff.
When the Bears traded for him, he had never had a double-digit sack season. That was all projection. Every contract in the NFL is projection.
It hasn't really all projection. No, it's production and production.
They're all projection.
Yeah, when you're trading for a guy in his 4th year, you're looking at production too, Kyle. Not just projecting it.
You guys, Sean Alexander got paid by the Seahawks after being the league MVP and was never even in the conversation for a Pro Bowl ever again. That happens in the NFL. It's okay. Projections are.
I want Montez Sweat to prove me wrong, Kyle. If he does those things consistently for the Bears, hell yeah, he's worth it. And pay him again.
Yes, exactly.
But when they made the move, Kyle, he did not have the resume.
Okay, so if he does that again, Sean, like Sean said, if he does that again, you two have to come on the podcast and eat crow. That's all he said.
I don't gotta do shit.
I will. But if he comes out next year and has 5 sacks?
How about
what
this,
do you guys do?
If Braxton Jones is the best left tackle in football, I'll come on here and eat crow.
Seems like a double standard.
I guess I'll have to too, because I'm not a big fan of Braxton Jones either, Kyle.
If he had 5 sacks,
I'm wrong.
He's number 1 in tackles for loss. He's number 1 in pressures. He's number 1 against
he
the
won't
run
be
in his
Sean.
position.
He won't.
He's already done it. He's been
number 1 in all 3 of those statistics.
No, I said if he was, but he's been around the top 5 in those. When he made the,
you have faith that will happen. Do you think that will happen next year?
I don't know. I hope so.
Do you think he'll be higher than 26th in pressures?
Well, Brandon, you kind of come across like you want him to not do well, though, with the way you're talking.
Brandon does.
No, I come across without.
Bears.
I come across thinking that the guy's played for 9 years in the NFL, and I don't expect to change now.
Oh yeah, and on top of this whole conversation, you talk about projections. You talk about projections. Justin Vernon, I remember vividly that you guys
8 years.
You guys were like, we traded a second for Montez Sweat, and the San Fran got Chase Young for a third. Chase Young sucked. And you know why they traded a 3rd round pick for him? For projections. They thought he was going to be really good and was getting a bunch of sacks. And he didn't. That happens in the NFL.
Montez
Good
Sweat just
GM.
finished his 6th year in the NFL, Brandon. He's
good
going into
GM.
his 7th year.
It's a good
Okay,
GM.
so going into his
It happens
7th
to
year,
GM.
and I'm supposed to project that he finishes first in all 3 of those categories.
Listen. I think that Dennis Allen will make an impact.
I'm going to be. I want improvements, but I'm going to be realistic too.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very similar to Marcus Davenport, and you know what? That's worth $25 million a year. That's what Marcus Davenport in his prime gets in this.
That's what the market is. That's what the market is for sure. Right. If he earns that, he did not earn it last year, and I think he would be the first one to say that, Kyle. I think
nobody on the Bears earned their paycheck last year,
and they all should be the first ones to say.
Any of you heard from the coaching staff, Brandon, who's working the hardest, first in, last out?
I don't care.
Grinding his balls off. Yeah, that would be Montez Sweat.
Who you guys think
Jonah Jackson's not working hard? Do you guys think that these guys that you don't are working hard?
I haven't heard damn word about
you got Montez Sweat, he's your boy crush, and you want to talk.
He was nursing 4 injuries while the
guys, realistically,
all these guys are working hard. They better be.
And the
realistically,
offense was scheming for him.
Realistically, though, there's one player on this team who got paid $100 million who is performing as that individual. His name is Jalen fucking Johnson. It's not DJ Moore. It's not Montez Sweat. There's one player who got the bag who's still playing like the guy he's supposed to be.
What do you want out of DJ Moore? Tell me what you expect from DJ Moore, because he's not performing the way you want. What do you want?
1,000 yards?
You
want 1,300 yards the year before.
Okay. Jalen Johnson Brandon. Jalen Johnson got paid $76 million.
Well, the players that got their max contracts, which he did, is still he's
Jalen
performing.
Johnson is a steal of a contract, man.
Jalen Johnson is performing up to his contract.
So is DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a steal of a contract.
Hey guys, Ben Johnson is joining us.
Oh shit!
We left Detroit.
What's up, Ben?
Yeah, once he sees us talking, he's like, "Shit, I got to get back to Detroit." I'm sure those Detroit fans are on these podcasts doing some crazy shit too. The kneecap biting guys and
they hate Ben Johnson. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, they're all losing their minds.
There have been a couple of podcasts where they crucified that guy, and that's to me that's just crazy for an individual.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, this has been something.
Brandon, don't be that way.
I prefer not to finish the podcast needing ibuprofen, but yeah, I feel what you're saying. They're real passionate.
Bernard and I got a bet going. If they have over 10 sacks more than they did last year, it's a $100 bet. I'm happy about that. I'll take that.
And I have a bet going that DJ Moore's not a top 15 receiver statistically in any one of his seasons.
That's definitely
that's also false.
That's very false.
I think you guys called him a top 10 receiver on your barely.
He's not paid as a top 10 receiver. He's like number 12.
But he's not a top 10 receiver.
He's not paid as a top 10 receiver. So how can you say he's not living up? How can you say he's not living up to his contract?
Receiver on this team.
He's paid as number 12 and he's ranked number 12. Then he's living up to his contract, Brandon.
I think Roma Dunze is the best wide receiver on this team. I think we're going to find that.
I agree. But Sean says he thinks it's Luther Burden. I think it's Roma Dunze. I've been saying that for months. I think Roma Dunze is the best receiver on this team.
Roma Dunze is going to have,
but it could be Luther Burden. I don't know. Maybe Luther Burden is Antonio Brown. Like some scouts have said, his potential, his ceiling is Antonio Brown. If he's Antonio Brown, he's the best receiver on this team. He is the best.
I love Luther Burden. We got to see it first. Roma Dunze showed a lot last year,
for sure.
and it's going to come to fruition.
I need to see more from Roma Dunze too. I think he also had a lot of bonehead plays.
I think Roma Dunze could end up being a top 10 fantasy receiver. I don't think DJ Moore's ever touched that neighborhood.
All right, guys. Just so we're clear, DJ Moore was the 9th overall receiver in 2023.
Oh, there you go, guys.
Yeah. But he's never
Montez Sweat had 12 sacks in 2023.
I mean,
I just think it's too. You guys have this mentality sometimes. Like, what have you done for me lately? If you look at a player's career in totality and he's had good seasons, then you should be rooting for and expecting those.
DJ Moore is a
good coaches when good coaches get in the building.
Well, instead of Braxton Jones,
that guy got paid $100 million, so I don't like him. And I don't want him here. Like, if you're a Bears fan, whether he got paid $100 million doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, you should be rooting for Montez Sweat to be one of the best defensive ends in football, and you should expect him to be exactly what he was in 2023.
Braxton Jones was a 5th round pick who finished 19th.
DJ Moore is a beast. DJ Moore is a leader in this locker room. DJ Moore is a big part of this Bears team, guys. 100%, without a doubt.
He might be
DJ Moore will have a great season this year.
And I think DJ Moore will have a better season next year. Sean,
you have 4 favorite Bears, motherfucker. Yeah, you do. It's Kyler Gordon. You say Kyler Gordon all the time.
DJ Moore.
Yeah.
What about Montez Sweat, man? You're banging the table for Montez
I just
Sweat.
love Montez Sweat. I think he's a great football player, man.
I think you guys are also like infatuated in love with Darnell Wright as well. I think that's like a thing too. Like, that conversation's created a lot of
wouldn't I like the 5th overall?
I'm just saying, Sean, there's players that like here we go. Here we go. See, there's players that like spark Sean's fuel. That if you mention their name, 1 to 10 immediately. Like beat red in the face, screaming into his microphone. There's many players like that.
Thinks DJ Moore's overrated. You think Darnell Wright's overrated. You think Montez Sweat's overrated. You think Javon Dexter's overrated. Are you a Bears fan?
Not overrated. Overpaid.
Well, Javon Dexter's not overpaid.
He's on a rookie contract. Are you a Bears fan, man?
No, I think Javon Dexter. Listen, I've said my 2 cents about Javon Dexter. I said when Javon Dexter plays,
Darnell Wright ain't overpaid either. I've
said when Javon Dexter plays against, the bottom of the half offensive lines, he dominates them. When he plays against really quality ones, he kind of disappears. Is there an argument to be made there? There's games where Javon Dexter disappears completely.
It's just the way your logic when it comes to these players to me is a little bit surprising. You love Jaquan Brisker. Jaquan Brisker was ranked like the number 25 safety in all football when he was playing.
I don't think any Bears player.
But Darnell Wright's ranked number 5, and you're like, this guy's overrated.
Guys, besides Jalen Johnson, there's no Bears player who I think is in the top of the league at their position. None of them.
Hey, yeah, really quick, guys, before we get out of here, I wanted to talk about this. 7:00 start time next week?
I thought we were going to do that off air, but
well, he wants.
We'll just have this conversation in front of.
You got 50-some people in the chat. If you want to change the time, you should do it on here right now.
Good time to do it.
No, yeah, Dante.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. It makes sense to me. I'm good.
Yeah,
it's just gonna. I mean, Brandon, you have a problem getting here by 6 because your work schedule.
So the eyes have it. We're good.
Right, so 7:00, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And we'll make an announcement here. Barely There on Wednesdays, moving to 7:00 too. The channel is moving to 7, except for Thursdays.
Yeah,
and that's subject to change when the NFL season begins.
Correct.
Javon Dexter is going to prove people wrong this year.
Yes, I agree 100%.
I think he says he's going to prove me wrong.
And I think Darnell Wright.
By people, I mean Brandon.
Folks.
Yeah, and I think Darnell Wright's going to be a top 3 right tackle in football next year too. Yeah, but
let's show tonight.
It all remains to be seen, right?
I think Penny Sewell will be the only better right tackle than
you guys. Real quick, thank you so much.
Not at his age.
Chicago's finest, another guy I've never seen here before. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you, man. Thigh and Smy, Breaking News, Bruce, Dante, Laz. I mean, man, we
wants to get on with this.
Illinois Jones, Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson. Thanks for joining the chat.
I don't know if Carl could stand the heat of
Scottish Bear, the Jacker Hunter, Flex Diggs.
I've been talking to Carl on
TB17, Melon Smasher, Jeremy II. Oh, I mean, Erica.
Carl, you can definitely be on the show coming soon.
Everybody, John S. Thank you so much. Bears fan for life, Phil. How can we guys possibly forget you, man? True loyal listener here. Breaking News, Bruce. We appreciate all the work you do for us.
I saw Bruce today.
Will Lampin, thanks. First time I've seen him on here. I appreciate you joining the show, man. Everybody out there. Erica, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Keep an eye out for the Barely There podcast, which is now going to be, you guys just heard it here first, 7:00 p.m. on Wednesday. Brandon and Dustin will be back on Thursday. Burning the Midnight Oil on the bare minimum. Keep an eye out for Sean and I. If you guys are Cubs fans, the Northside 9 podcast will be at noon on Saturday. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
And we're on TikTok now.
ChicagoSports.com. 4-star Chicago.
And if you're listening on Twitter, please go over to our YouTube page. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate it. And Sean, is there anything you want to get to before we get out of here, man?
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go. That'll
And that guy's going to be a shining star this year.
Yeah, Dustin, thanks for jumping in, man. I know you're a busy man with that baby. Hopefully,
yeah, I got to get back out there.
Welcome back, Dustin.
I'll be back on bare minimum. First time
back with a bang, man.
Yeah, this is a
That's
lot
awesome because I can't do this Thursday. Brandon would have been by himself.
Yeah, we can't have that. We can't have that.
Nobody's tuning in for that.
Definitely.
All right,
take it easy.
All right, bear down, everybody.
Thanks, everybody in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Have a great night.